doing exercise and eating right and things like that. The longer distances haven't been so much fun, but yeah, no, it's been really important and it's helped me as well, yeah.
Have a great day today. And Daniel, you suffered a horrific assault which left you with many injuries, but from that changed your life in many other ways, and you've tried to use that as a positive.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, I broke my leg and I was blinded in my right eye, so you know, I've tried to turn things around, try to live a bit of a healthier lifestyle. Things could have been a lot worse from the attack. So, you know, I'm just trying to turn that positive, and you know, in this way, I'm coming out and trying to make some money for charity as well. So.
Tell us about the charity.
So I'm running for Evelina Children's Hospital, fantastic hospital, do lots and lots for sick children in the country. They're celebrating their 150th year this year, but they're not quite as well known as the likes of Great Ormond Street, and they helped save the life of one of my oldest and closest friends' son as well when he was just under 1 year old. So trying to run for them. People at home can get involved as well. If you go fitformedals.com, they can sign up for charity for challenges to run, swim or cycle. Every challenge will pay £1 towards the charity.
Good luck today, Dan. Natalie Cassidy, one of Barbara's Revolutionaries, the official charity Dementia Revolution.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the big ones this year. I'm just honoured to be a part of it. There's loads of people in the crowd wearing the T-shirts and everything, and we've raised so much money. I just feel absolutely honoured to be here and just can't wait to get started now.
Well, you look fit, Nat, so best of luck out there. You've got a great team behind you. And Aston Martin, of course you are. That's your real name, and your record is?
Well, I'm doing the official Guinness World Record attempt for the fastest marathon dressed as a car.
And along the way, you're going to raise money for?
I'm raising money for the guide dogs.
Excellent. Are you sure you're allowed that car on the pavement?
I don't know. London congestion charges are they're worse. I'll park it anywhere. Avoid parking.
Best of luck. You'll be very, very hard to miss. I'm sure we'll see you out on the course today. Guys, have a fantastic day and lap it up. Enjoy the occasion. It truly is one of the most wonderful days out there. The masses are lined up behind the elite men. All I can do now is hand you over to our incredible commentary team. Dame Tanni Grey-Thompson, Andrew Cotter, Steve Cram, Adele Roberts and Paula Radcliffe.
Yeah, we've got a five-a-side team in here, and welcome to everybody. Really looking forward to, of course, the masses. Over 42,000 people we think will start this year's race, more than ever before, even more than last year. I'm told they even ran out of chips at registration yesterday, and those aren't the ones that you cook in a deep fat fryer. They are the electronic chips. And they had to get some more brought in because more people have turned up to take part in this year's event than ever before. 56,000 get the invite, and always various reasons why some can't make it on the day. But we're pleased that the best names in distance running are here. The boss, Eliud Kipchoge, has won his last 9 marathons, including breaking a world record in Berlin, and of course 3 times winner here in London. Taking on all of those great names, but down there at number 8, Mo Farah, Britain's greatest of all time, perhaps one of the greatest ever to have graced the track, and now showing how good he is in the marathon. Kitata was second last year between the two of them. So Mo Farah this year, though, thinks he has a chance of winning.
Of this great men's elite field. Stand by to welcome.
Andy Murray will be getting them underway shortly. Good luck to him in the rest of the year as well. We were listening to him earlier on telling us about his state of fitness. What state of fitness do these marathon runners bring to this 39th edition of this fantastic race? I just was listening to some of the comments there. Somebody said, it's the big one. It certainly is.
9th in the Rio Olympic
and Britain,
Games,
of course, have other men to watch. Callum Hawkins, his first marathon since collapsing in the Commonwealth Games in the heat when he was in the lead there. But, of course, he ran so well in London at the World Championships in 2017. The winner of this race that year was Daniel Wanjiru. Hasn't been in such good form since then, but will always be a threat, as indeed will the former world record holder from Kenya, Wilson Kipsang, won here in 2012 and 2014. Kitata will be a danger. He's an improving young man who showed last year his capabilities, not just here in London, but at a couple of the other majors as well. But everybody says it's about Mo Farah and Eliud Kipchoge. Perhaps not the build-up he would have liked, although he did instigate it himself, I guess, with his comments at the press conference the other day. Eliud Kipchoge, as ever, has just kept very quiet over the last 2-3 days, trying to become the first man to win 4 London marathons, to make his own piece of history on what is always an historical day. So just a few seconds to go. They are on the blue start, and then the 42,000 plus others on the red and the green starts. 3 start lines, of course, but this one purely for the elites. Andy Murray at the ready. Watchers at the ready. Perfect conditions, a little breezy. The London Marathon on its way. Mo Farah and Eliud Kipchoge leading the charge. And as ever, one of sport's greatest sights. And we hope this year we will be delivered a great race as well. Kipchoge has owned this race in recent years, and without doubt we may not see anybody as dominant as him in the marathon distance. Is he still as good as he has been? Is he still as good as that world record he set in Berlin last year? Mo Farah is getting better, he's getting faster, and this is his stage. London is where he started his career in the mini marathon. It's where he won his Olympic titles, it's where he won world titles, and now he's attempting to win the London Marathon. You can argue which is the world's best marathon. We are perhaps a little biased, but I for one certainly think that London can boast that it's led the way in so many different ways over the years, and we've heard Gabby mentioning, and Hugh Brace are so proud of the fact that this year it will cross the £1 billion mark in terms of money raised for charity. And there we see the athletes or runners getting ready for the blue start, and it's a massive logistical exercise. I said we're expecting record starters and record finishers this year. And this is at the red start. They start in waves now to keep it safe. It will take almost 50 minutes for all participants to cross the start line. They all come together with the same goal in mind, to conquer the ultimate running challenge, the marathon. The course, of course, is the same for everyone, but each journey to the finish line is unique to each and every participant. Different reasons to be here. There'll certainly be a myriad of stories to tell afterwards, but they will all be celebrated for their endeavours and the spectacle, which I think we're all absorbed by every single year. Well, joining us in the commentary box, we've heard from Andrew and from Paula. Adele, you've run the race, and you're going to be taking us through some of the stories later on as well. We're asking for requests later on, but what's it like down in Greenwich at the start line?
Oh, it's incredible. It's like the best mixture of excitement, of anticipation, a little bit of fear, and me being able to see right across the crowd, which when you're there, you're kind of like in it, so you can't see this. These shots are just absolutely beautiful, and I'm so excited for all these people, especially the first timers who are going to experience the most incredible day of their lives. They don't realize it yet. They're probably like I was on my first marathon thinking, can I get to the end? Will I finish? What's going to happen? Will I know the way? Will I get lost? Are my trainers on properly? Have I tied my laces? But once you get started, once you go past that start line, it just becomes natural, and the crowds that line the streets just spur you on. It's amazing.
Well, it's a day for the runners. It might not be the best day for spectating in terms of weather, although they'll, I'm sure, will all be happy for the runners that it's not as hot as last year, and certainly not as hot as last weekend. Goodness me, had it been last weekend, that would have been a bit of a struggle for many people. But they're getting on their way. You probably noticed as Adele was talking there, in years gone by, you're probably used to seeing the mass ranks in Greenwich Park there, but they're now fed in from the sides. There are gaps, or big gaps, if you like, between the various waves to allow a little bit more room, and I think that helps the experience as well. You're not going to be so hemmed in the first couple of miles. Every single person wearing a chip, so they all get their own personal times, and there you see the mats that they cross, which record them as they cross the start line and at various points along the route. So there you can see the pens in operation. It's an incredibly well organized start. There are over 1,000 marshals just on the start line. Just on the start line, yes. I'll give you loads of stats, Adele.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
There's Chris Evans there, right in the middle. There's Chris in the dark and the black. Children in Need this year. Another group of people taking part. Good luck to them. They've all raised money for BBC's Children in Need and Chris's show back in November, it would have been, when they all bid for that. So good luck to them. And Susie, Lee, Rob, Lisa, Mark, Bonamy and Jean, most of them, I think, will be finished ahead of Chris.
Everybody's trying to get a picture with Chris. Did you just notice Sam Atwater there, just doing a little selfie with him? And I do notice as well that Chris doesn't run with music. So when I did my marathons, I made sure I had music in just to get me through the first part of the race.
Spotted Kirsty Gallagher there as well, just to the right of Chris Evans. Well, let's have a look where they're heading to. We said 3 different start lines. This is the main start at Greenwich, the red start. All 3 races, or 3 starts, come together at around about the 3-mile mark, which is actually quite a nice bit of the... Record for that graphic.
Take a break, Steve, take a break. That is the view at the start as they continue to filter through, but the first athletes to cross the line will be those in the men's elite wheelchair race, and it is between 3 now, because a long time ago, I mean, a lot of people were coming into this thinking, can David Weir win his 9th? He's not going to be able to, because he was dropped just about at Tower Bridge, really, where they had the flying 400 metres, this innovation this year, the flying 400 metre sprint. And at that point, Daniel Romanchuk in the yellow helmet there, he won that, and he made a break. He was closed down by Marcel Hug, the great Swiss athlete, and Tomoki Suzuki of Japan. And those 3 have been racing together since then, as they approach 35k now in a 42k race.
It was interesting because I think we were expecting the pack to stay together for a bit longer, and it took Hug and Suzuki quite a long time to catch Romanchuk. He didn't make a decisive break, but you know, it was about 2 kilometres it took for them to get back to them. He's looking very comfortable at the moment, and I think this is where Hug's and Suzuki's racing experience is showing, is they keep forcing him to the front. You know, they're making him work, they're making him take as much of the wind as possible, because they want to try and knock a bit of that sprint out of him. But if you look at the front of his chair, it's wobbling. It's quite hard to see. The steering on his chair isn't set quite straight, so that's going to make it harder than it actually needs to be as he's bouncing around the road. I think maybe the spring in his compensator, which holds the chair straight, isn't strong. So actually every single push he's doing, he's losing just a little bit of power, which he needs to look out for future racing.
So Daniel Romanchuk, the 20-year-old American, the winner in Chicago and New York and Boston, who just gave second best to Marcel Hug in Tokyo. And then you have Suzuki, the Japanese athlete, as well, just tucked in behind. But Romanchuk, you can see how hard he's working, and Hug, just a picture of composure, tucking in behind the younger man, the less experienced athlete at the moment. And Romanchuk has done a lot of the work out front. He's hugely powerful, but he's having to work hard. And sometimes you see that little look around in cycling, you know, he'd flick out an elbow, say, you come around, you do your bit of the work. I don't know how it works necessarily, Tani, in wheelchair racing, but you must be crying out for, look, I'm doing all the work here, why don't you help me out a bit? Be fair.
It's exactly the same, and you know, there's quite a lot of conversations in the pack. You know, he's looking behind, he's checking who's there. You know, Hug is not coming to the front, and this is the point Daniel's decided. He's just had enough. He thinks it's time for somebody else to do it. it. And in the wheelchair racing, you see the pace vary quite a lot as everyone decides how much work to do.
There's Francisco San Clemente, the Colombian athlete, who had to wait about 20 minutes to get his chair sorted. Right at the start, he had a problem. Those are the mats, incidentally, for the start of the flying 400 metres, which finishes around the bend just after Tower Bridge. But he's got elite runners as well to contend with now, because he had to start 20 minutes after the rest of the wheelchair racers because of a puncture and a problem with his spare as well. Manuela Schär is a long, long way clear in the women's event. She won the flying 400 as well. She's going to take it all today again. She's just a little bit outside her own course record of 1:39.57, that sort of pace. She's about 30 seconds or so down on that. But again, it's been very hard for her out on her own, where she likes to be. But that does mean that you're buffeted by the wind, and you don't get a rest, don't get a draft off any other athlete.
She's had absolutely no protection whatsoever, and she's not picking up some of the men that she might have been expected to do, because the elite field have stayed together for much longer. But her cadence hasn't changed. She's working incredibly hard. It's her against the clock. I mean, she has her GPS on, she has a speedo, a heart rate monitor, so she's got all the information that she needs to know where she is. She'll be going for the quickest time she can on her own.
There are other para categories taking place today, apart from the wheelchairs. The men's T46, and you've got Michael Roger, the Australian, going for a world record there. He's actually running alongside a men's T12, a visually impaired athlete, El Amin Shentouf, at the moment, and they're sort of pulling each other along. So there are other categories involved, but in the men's race it's coming down to 3 in the men's wheelchair race. In the women's race it's all about Manuela Schär. She is a long way clear, and that is where they are at the moment. The men's elite wheelchair is approaching the 21-mile mark, and they're heading west towards the finish, along the embankment and down towards the finish. But the women's elite race is obviously a little bit further behind.
Well, this is all a little bit odd, I have to tell you, that the race leader is still the 42-year-old Sinead Diver. And the pace is still very slow. It picked up a little bit. Very briefly, Mary Keitany put a slightly quicker mile to help the one in, but then they've dropped back again, 5:34s, 5:31s. So Diver is now just moving on with the pacemaker. The main group is there. Charlotte Purdue's going really well, is moving back towards that main group, and in fact is less than a minute behind the likes of Keitany and Chariot. Is running a good race for a while. Lily Partridge was with her. This is Diver. So, Paula, what's going on here? This is much slower than we expected. You wouldn't have thought at this point, approaching 10 miles, that she'd have a lead like this to the likes of Chariot, Keitany and the rest.
You wouldn't at all. You might have done if it was yesterday, when we saw how strong the wind was blowing yesterday and how stormy it was. But today, it's nowhere near like that. These are actually good conditions to run fast in, but nobody seems to really want to get going in that group. And going through the mind of Charlotte Purdue must be, I didn't expect me to find myself in this position where I'm within sight of the lead group, and she has to decide, does she just push on a little bit, maybe too quick for her at this stage to be able to latch onto that. I think she's doing a good job. She's ticking away at her own race. She's just chipping away, picking off people in front of that. Sviskovici, she's just picked off Yuko Ando as well, who she would have been expecting to be a fair way up the road ahead of her, and she has now reeled her in.
She's been very paced, Paula. 17:07 first 5k, 17:09 for the second 5k, 17:20 for her third. So she's moving through nicely. Is on 2:25 pace, kind of what she said she was going to do. So her game plan is spot on at the moment. Let's hope she can keep it going. But up ahead of her, that lead group is breaking up a little bit, not of the main contenders. In that lead group, the likes of Sisson and Molly Huddle, the 2 Americans, sitting comfortably with Chariot, Keitany and Koskai and Chirono. So not what we're expecting at all.
No, and if you'd said to Sinead Diver before the race, you're going to find yourself leading the London Marathon around miles 9 and 10 and actually talking to the pacemakers, asking them to push the pace on, which is what she's done. She's just getting on with her own race, but behind her, I'm not sure they really know what's going on. And let's not forget that ahead of them are 3 pacemakers just out there doing their own thing on the streets of London. The rules have changed recently to specify that those pacemakers cannot finish. But I don't know if all the women in this group are aware of that, and they should be at this point starting to think maybe we should just check in and see what's happening in this race.
But when you say it's a rule, I mean, if you're in a pacemaker and you keep going, you won't get paid because you're getting paid to be the pacemaker. But you cannot, I'm not sure they can disqualify them, can they? Because they're actually technically entered in the race.
And they've got a chip and they're racing, they've got a number. So at some point, those women have to be thinking, Jocelyn Jepkosgei 64.51 for the half marathon is way ahead of us. Has never run a marathon, but wants to run one at some point. What happens if she says, OK, right, I'll take the world record down?
And was supposed to be running in Hamburg yesterday, made a late decision to come and pace here. She's going to run the main Hamburg Marathon yesterday. Made a late decision to come here and is somewhere ahead of these people. 3 pacemakers running on their own, as Paula said, as you said, through the streets of London. It's interesting. Anyway, a long way to go yet. Approaching Tower Bridge shortly. Meanwhile, as I said, it was going to take about 50 minutes for all athletes. We've only had 15 participants, so they've got bands all around the route, all sorts of entertainment for them. They might need a little bit today. It is a bit chilly out there, although I think the temperature's only going to get up to about 12, 13, and that's pretty perfect, to be honest. I do my own weather forecasting, but there might be a little bit of help from the experts coming. Here it comes. Is light cloud, Adele, how are you on with? Is light cloud better than light drizzle?
Oh, definitely. I like the cloud. Even though it says 12 degrees, and that for most people would be a jacket, when you're actually running, you heat up a lot. And I've been told that you add 10 degrees onto the actual temperature to give you an idea of how hot you're going to be. So to the runners, eventually this will feel like t-shirt weather. They'll be like, you know, they'll be fine in their vests. But at the start, you are really cold, and you'll see down the sides of the marathon. These will get picked up later, by the way, but you see loads of bin bags and tops and stuff because people are trying to keep themselves warm at the start.
All clouds are light, aren't they? They don't weigh much. It's sunny where we are, actually, at the moment, at the finish line. Lots of people in fancy dress, of course, for later on. We will be, after 2:30 on the iPlayer, or Adele will be encouraging you, will be here as well, to send in your music requests, send them in to us during the race, and then we'll be trying to... So many people run with... Do you run with music?
I do run with music. At the start of the race, this is the advice I got. At the start, don't put your headphones in. Take them out as well when you go past Cutty Sark. When you go over Tower Bridge, take your headphones out. But when you get to the Isle of Dogs, get them in and get that music on, because it's really tough through that part of the race. And that is great advice. So yes, as Steve said, if you could send us your messages, please, your shout-outs, your music, 81111 to text us, or you can use the hashtag. If you just tweet out, hashtag Get Inspired, we will find you and we will celebrate your runners, because we know how much it means to these people that are queuing up at the moment and getting ready to pass the start line and finish the London Marathon.
You see, I'm old enough that you used to have to carry music on your shoulder around, and I couldn't have done that for 26 miles if you wanted to listen to music. I found the best thing to do was to sing yourself, and I'm such a bad singer, it meant that no one was anywhere near me. That was helped me win races.
Do you ever run with music?
No.
Why? How do you do it? I'd find that impossible.
I love to listen to everything that's going on around me, take in the atmosphere. I think there is an issue, as we always, a lot of event organisers, myself included, are always kind of saying, look, just be careful, because you do need to hear instructions from marshals and the rest of it. And I think particularly when you're out running, if you're running in towns and city centres, you know, just be careful about getting into your zone a bit too much. But I get it, it's a motivational help for people. It helps pass the time. But no, I think Paul will be the same. And Andrew's looking at me, quizzing me as well.
Never music, no. Just dark thoughts.
At one with nature.
At one with nature, exactly. But I run nice places, down trails. I want to hear the birds and the wind and the trees and the people shouting abuse at you, all these things. I just want to hear it all.
Well, you see, the thing is, you guys are too quick. When you're out there for hours, you need the music.
But you still need to be aware of things around you, and that's the danger. I think, how many times do you catch up and run past people listening to music and they've no idea that you're there? And if a dog ran out, if there's a bike crossing the path, they're not aware of that. So I think you do have to be aware when you're running outside, but music has its place in the gym. But also, it's not actually legal in the elite race.
Really?
So they can't have headphones in, and they can't be listening to music.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, of course it should be illegal. Can you imagine if poor Mo Farah had to listen to Gary in his ears for 26 miles? Come on, Mo. Come on, Mo.
On the guitar as well.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
He sings in the long runs.
Well, he's in there. He's at the back of the group. He's got his sunglasses on. Who knows? He might have a little speaker in his sunglasses that are little messages going through to him. Who knows? You never know. Or inside his hat.
Is this you throwing allegations around as well?
No. There was a great picture. I thought, well done to BBC Sport website. The little, as I described it, unseemly spat, which is now turning a little bit more between Mo Farah and Haile Gebrselassie. In the Great North Run, Mo took his hat off at about 6 or 7 miles and cast it aside to the edge of the road, but it looked like he was throwing it at Haile Gebrselassie. At the time, of course, they were very good friends, but it was a nice picture to use to illustrate the current dispute between the two of them. Anyway, all of that's not important today. What is important is Mo. So here's, Paula, the important thing. You know, the pace that Eliud Kipchoge has been set was perhaps a tad quicker. And I think Eliud's game plan will always be to make it hard for Mo Farah. So Mo had to make a decision. Do I go on the back of that group? Do I stay with it, whatever Eliud asks the pacemakers to do? They've been asked to do 61.20, which is obviously pretty quick through the half. But you've got to be in the race, and you can't give Eliud Kipchoge 30, 40 seconds starting halfway, I don't think.
No, you can't. I would also argue that I reckon Eliud Kipchoge's plan is to win the race. And I don't think he's only looking at Mo Farah. I think he's recognised Mo Farah as a big danger, but I think he's also looking at everybody else within that and the shape that the training that he's done, the preparation he's done, and he's judging from that, what is my best tactic to win this race. I don't think he's particularly thinking about trying to improve that phenomenal world record from Berlin last year. I think he just wants to win the race, but he knows that he has a number of different ways that he can do that, and most of those will involve running fast at some point. And you're right, I think he can control those pacemakers a little bit more to test out the others and just see how much they have.
Just going to give you some stats on this incredible athlete. There you can see his marathon races. And you know, it's not just a marathon. So his average time, and there's a 2:08 in there. You can kind of discount that in Rio because of the conditions. His average time is 2 minutes 4 exactly, his average time. On the track, his average 5,000 meters, top 10 times, 12:52. 3,000 meters, 7:29. 10,000 meters, his top 5 times, 26:52. All of them better than Mo Farah. 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, of course, at the marathon. But, and it's a big but, Mo's just starting on his career. And of course, Mo won races. Mo wasn't about times, so Mo won lots more on the track, more than almost anybody else, than Eliud Kipchoge ever did. Eliud became the world champion as a teenager back in 2003 over 5,000 meters, but didn't have so much success after that. Ran good times, and that's probably, and in fact, it was Mo Farah, I think, 2011, 2012, that prompted the likes of Kipchoge to move on to the marathon with incredible success. But it isn't all about times, as you were saying, Paula, but let's just remind everyone, they are going very fast already. They're running sub 2 hour 2:2. They often do in the early stages, so we'll keep an eye on that. Fast pace in the men's, exactly the opposite in the women's. Been so slow, and this is our leader, Sinead. There are pacemakers, I must just in case, I will keep mentioning it. There are 3 pacemakers well ahead of these leading. There they are, there's the 3 of them, and that includes Jep Kosgei, as Paula was saying, former world record holder for the half marathon. Should have been running in Hamburg. They're not as far ahead now as they have been. In fact, seem to be looking around and waiting, finally, for the leader, who is Sinead Diver. There she is, the 42-year-old, about 150 meters behind those 3 pacemakers.
And incidentally, at the moment, Sinead Diver is on target to run around about 2:22.40, which would be amazing already for a 42-year-old. But the Australian record, 2:22.36. Benita Johnson, now Benita Willis, holds that record. So she is within reach of that. Looks to be running comfortably. Is definitely giving her cues to Eunice Chumba, the pacemaker in front of her, to keep her going. And as you say, going ahead to that, Jocelyn Jep Kosgei and that group of 3 do now appear to be looking around and seeing where the other runners are behind them. Jocelyn Jep Kosgei should have run a marathon in Honolulu back in December. Wasn't quite ready for that. Switched to Hamburg, and then I'm not sure Hamburg were aware until this morning or yesterday that she was actually pacemaking here.
I still think Diver's going a little quick. I think that she's going to get caught. That's for sure. if she can hold her race together. As you said, she's on 2:22, 2:23 pace, which is very quick for her. But here's where the race winner, I think, will come from here. Vivian Chariot there, Koskar just moving in behind her. Keitany a little further back, and is still in that. There's Emily Sisson of the USA and Molly Huddle towards the back, and still going very well. Britain's leading contender here, Charlotte Purdue. Two things for Charlotte here, Paula. If she finishes in the top 10, and she's not that far off the top 10 yet, she'll guarantee a place for the Olympics, because the top 10 in the world majors in this current window will qualify for the Olympics, and has the option, of course, and she'll be hoping that would also see her in Doha for the World Championships later this year. But what an opportunity here for Charlotte Purdue. Long way to go, but so far, so very good. A little look at the watch for the pacemaker. Running alongside her, who's doing a cracking job. Lily Partridge had tried to stay with Charlotte Purdue the first 6 or 7 miles, but she's stuck to her task very well. She said she was in great shape. I've prepared best I ever have done, she said. She's had 1 or 2 disappointments, and let's not forget she had such a good World Championship race here in 2017. Different course, of course. She was the first European finisher on that occasion, and she's right up there today.
So their race continues, and the noise continues throughout the whole course. But as you can see, the men's elite wheelchair racers are nearing the finish. And we will head there now, because it's coming down to a thrilling finish between 3 men who have been out and clear since just about halfway. Marcel Hug, the great Swiss athlete, looking for his 3rd victory. Daniel Romanchuk in the yellow helmet just behind him, the young American, the 20-year-old, and then Tomoki Suzuki of Japan on the right-hand side. These 3 have been clear. They've been pushing each other along. They've been trying to get help from each other, and it's Marcel Hug, and it's so tactical now as Romanchuk sits in behind Hug.
Well, the pace slowed along the embankment, and that's the bit where everyone starts getting a bit twitchy, thinking you're close to the finish. It's still a long run into the finish line. They're constantly looking over their shoulders because they don't know the gap that they've got behind, and because the pace is slowed down, I think they're worried that pack behind is going to come and catch them up. They're so clear from now, I can't see that's going to happen. But Hug is playing a really smart game. They're just watching each other. Suzuki, you know, they're not worried about him. It's Romanchuk and Hug who are constantly watching each other to see who's going to have the nerve, who's going to break first, and who's going to try and challenge them.
Well, they had a great tussle in Tokyo, these two, and now Romanchuk's gone down the blind side, sneaking the other side of the railings, and is trying to make his move now. He won the 400-meter flying sprint in the middle, and he goes now, and Hug just looks to him and responds, and Tomoki Suzuki will not have enough to keep pace with the 2 of them, but Romanchuk has made a significant break.
And now he's gone, he can't do anything but to keep going. It's a big risk, 600 metres to go. It's still a long sprint into it, and he's looking fast. He's looking behind. This is, as a young athlete, he hasn't still in his own head made that commitment. He shouldn't be looking behind at this point. He just needs to go for the finish line. That's a good gap though, and Hug has not got the hand speed. You see how his hands aren't pushing the same? Hug's done now. I can't see that he's going to be able to get... His head's gone. Hug can't fight back from this.
So out of birdcage walk they come, and that gap is big, and Hug looks a spent force already, and Romanchuk, those huge arms pumping away, and still the cadence is high. Suzuki a distant 3rd place, but 3rd in the London Marathon is still some achievement. But surely, as Hug just looks behind to Suzuki, that's what he's concerned about now. He's not looking ahead, not looking forward to this man here, this youngster, this 20-year-old who has already won in Chicago, in New York and Boston, and into the final 200 metres. The 20-year-old American, the rising star of wheelchair marathon racing, is going to take another victory, add another city to that famous list, because the winner in Chicago, the winner in New York, and the winner in Boston is going to win here now in London. The first to cross the line today, Daniel Romanchuk takes the victory. No 3rd victory for Marcel Hug, he takes 2nd. And Tomoki Suzuki will come through to take 3rd, looking tired, beaten by the faster sprinters towards the end. It's a full 2 minutes or so back to the rest. David Weir was 4th, 5th, 6th place or so at the last time check, but Marcel Hug congratulates Daniel Romanchuk, who he realises now is his serious rival, and perhaps even his better in recent form in world marathons across the globe. He's taken another victory here in London.
And for Romanchuk, you know, he's such a young athlete. It normally takes several more years to get to this kind of level in racing. 2 years ago, he was top 20 in the world. He's now taking them on in almost any way that he wants. He still hasn't got his tactics right. There's still so much that he can do to be a better athlete. He hasn't broken a smile yet, though. I don't think it's quite sunk in yet, just what he's done today.
Well, I know you were speaking to his mother earlier, and she'll be as proud as anyone. He was third here last year, just behind David Weir and Marcel Hug, and they're waiting to see where the rest are, and they needn't have been so worried towards the finish because they were a long way clear indeed, these three. I say that significant break really happened at halfway, just after Turbridge, where they had the flying 400 metres, which Romanchuk took as well. So he took the $10,000 for that, and he takes the victory here as well. Breaching the tape, first of all, Daniel Romanchuk, I say, adds another city, adds another great marathon to his list of honours. And at only 20 years old, he has many years to come and many more races to win.
Small smile from him there. I think Hug looks relieved as much as anything else that it's now all over.
So the men's race came down to 3. The women's race has been all about 1 for a long, long time, since very near the start. In fact, Manuela Schär, she was out of sorts and down in 4th place last year, but normal service will be resumed here. She's coming along the embankment and out of the tunnel there. And she's been passing quite a few of the men as well in this race. She hasn't quite got to David Weir yet, and she won't. He's, I think, nearing the finish, David Weir, now in that group there, but not what he expected or hoped for, looking for a 9th title. But we talked about, mentioned his disrupted training over the winter, that car crash in December which put him out for about a month. So perhaps that took a little bit more out of his training and his stamina than he might have thought at the time, but just not to be today.
And I think once you're in the second pack, if you're not going to have commitment from everyone in the pack to try and chase down the leaders, then it's not going to happen. And Dave Weir's smart enough to know that he's not in a position to chase down Hug and the others at that stage. This is a really tough place to be in, because you know that you're outside the podium. The time is not what they would have wanted today. This is just about who's got the... I get the most in them at this point, and they're stringing it out. You know, again, in terms of tactics, Dave runs a very smart race. He's not going to do anything more than he needs to. He wants to be the highest up in the positions he can.
Dai Yong Chang of China leading home this group, but David Weir, I'm sure he'll want to finish with a bit of a sprint and show that he's still got it as they head into the final. As you say, 385 yards, but this is a battle for the not quite minor places, because you're still going to be in the top 10. With 3 having finished a long way clear of the rest. But David Weir was looking for 9 today, and it's not going to be that.
And those final 2 turns really take it out of you. If you're not feeling in great shape, it just knocks out that speed. And that final climb, it's not an easy one, but see there, Dave's cadence, his hand speed is not... He looks like he's struggling. This hasn't been a great day for him. This is not the Dave Weir that we're used to seeing in a sprint finish.
No, and a little bit of the motivation, the drive will have gone when he realised he wasn't going to take victory. Dai Yong Chang of China does come across the line for 4th, and David Weir 5th place in this, his 20th London Marathon. I hope that he will be back, and I hope that he'll believe that he can still take on the great youngster now, Daniel Romanchuk, who had the better of Marcel Hug today to take the victory. But David Weir, 5th place in the 2019 London Marathon.
Well, it's all changed in the women's race. We said that Sinead Diver had led for so long and she wasn't going to be the winner. She was running probably a little bit too quick for her target, and the others who were going way too slow for what we would have liked, but they're in the race and it's up to them how fast they go. But it's picked up now, and we now have the main contenders in this small group. Sinead Diver is about 100 metres behind these, and Mary Keitany to the right there. You can see Bridget Kosgei right in the middle, Vivian Chariot, the pre-race favourite, Dereje, the taller of those athletes in that group. DeBarber's in there as well, and Chirono. A little further back, you can see Diver, and I think that might be Massa. I'm not sure, I'll check who else is there. I can tell you Charlotte Purdue's still going very well. So through halfway, the women went through in 71.22. Now, that's good for a vast majority of people, but for these at the front here, that's pretty slow. But Paula will now explain. In New York last year, no pacemakers, very slow first, well, not very slow, but slowish, and then Mary Keitany ran the fastest second half of a marathon ever, She also happens to have the fastest first half of a marathon. She's never managed to put the two together, but never mind. So do you think she's got that in her head? Maybe that's a good way to go about it. She hasn't really pushed on at this point, though.
She hasn't. I think definitely it's a lot easier to run a very fast second half in London than it is in New York. So the fact that she could run, what was it, 66.58 or something for the second half of the New York Marathon last November has to be going through Vivian Chariot's head right now, because Vivian was also in that race in New York and wasn't able to stay with Mary when she really threw the hammer down there. And I think looking at the press conference or watching the press conference on Thursday morning with these two ladies, Vivian was the one who was really saying, I want to get a personal best, I want to run fast. I don't think she was expecting it to be this slow and expecting Mary Keitany not to have taken it on already at this point and got the race moving. So I think that's going through her head. I think Bridget Kosgei is also very capable of running very fast over this second half, as is Gladys Cherono. We saw that in Chicago and then in Berlin from the pair of them. So they're all capable of going quicker. Rosa DeReja actually has a very fast time from Dubai, I think, last year. So she is also capable of picking it up, and we're going to see a lot of changes, I think, in this second half.
And that will suit Charlotte Purdue. She's stuck to her tasks well. I was on about the splits that she's putting in terms of 5K splits, 17:20 through 15, and then 17:18 to take her up to 20, and then halfway. She's right spot on her schedule, and athletes are dropping off that lead group, so she's moving into the top 15 now, and as others drop off, as that pace is changing with the leaders, it gives her people to run at, which is such a good thing to do. She's got a pacemaker who's doing a cracking job for her, has stuck to Charlie. There was meant to be 2-3 others in this group. She's the only one running at this pace, so she's having a great race, and I think that's Bekele ahead of her there, who she's chasing down, and that's what she needs.
It is, because it's not just giving her people to run at, it's giving her a psychological boost as well. Every time you pass someone, it just makes you feel a little bit better, and it gives you a little bit of energy, and it goes in through your mind, yeah, this is really going to my plan now. Having said that, she hasn't seen, thankfully, the 5:08 split that's just gone up for the leaders.
Yeah, just to put it out in context, you ran every single mile in 5:09 for the whole way, but that has been the fastest mile, well, not every single mile, but your average. But she's a one for being pedantic. Point is, fastest mile of the race so far. Now we're going to see what the gaps look like. You just saw Bekele there. This is what's ahead of Charlotte Purdue. Great crowds out on the route. And just to clarify what I was explaining earlier on, a top 10 finish here effectively gives them the option of her being selected for the Olympics. It doesn't guarantee you selection, but the selection process is open, and finishing in the top 10 in the majors is a way of qualifying for the Olympics. So that would be a great little box ticked for Charlotte Purdue, were she able to do that. Now, Rocha initially ran with Purdue a little earlier on. She's still going well. Lynette Massai has got herself onto the back of that group. Former world champion on the track. Has had, I think she had a year out for maternity. Let's say, I don't know if I find the right way to put that. To have a child, it always sounds so, you know. Anyway, Lynette came back last year and has been in reasonable form coming into this. So she's, the fact that they've just run a very fast mile and she's got onto the back of them, she's going well.
Yeah.
Well, going very well, and a very sort of lonely pursuit today for Manuela Schär as she rounds the final bend, because she has been a long way clear. She's about 5.5 minutes clear of the rest in the women's elite wheelchair race at the moment, and looking a rather tired figure, going to be some way outside her course record, but it is going to be a second victory for Schär, and this is going to complete a clean sweep, because she won Berlin and Chicago and New York last year, Tokyo earlier this year. So of all the major marathons, she's going to ensure that she holds them all.
And she's had a phenomenal race. If you look at split times from 25 kilometres to the finish, she's been between sort of 2:23 and 2:28 for each kilometre. And bearing in mind, you know, the course is a bit up and down, it's not the great road surface. To have that consistency of pushing has been absolutely fabulous. And she's not afraid to take it on. And, you know, that's just what you want from an athlete. In a bigger women's field, if she'd been able to pick off a few more men, she could have gone maybe 2.5 minutes quicker. But she'd be absolutely delighted with this to beat Maddie De Rosario, Tatiana McFadden. She couldn't hope for anything better.
Yes, 5 minutes clear of the 4-time winner McFadden, and De Rosario, the defending champion, is down in 3rd place, but it is going to be Manuela Schär for her 2nd victory in London. She completes the set all around the globe. She has won. She does it again in London. And Manuela Schär of Switzerland, well, it wasn't a Swiss victory in the men's marathon with Marcel Hug beaten by Daniel Romanchuk, but the smile on the face of Manuela Schär says that it is victory in the women's. Another victory for this outstanding racer.
Well, there we're looking over Canary Wharf. Still a little bit overcast, the sun trying to break through, and still they come. Still walking to the start line and their chance to get going. You've got to be patient, Adele, down at the start, haven't you? Not a bad thing.
Yeah, I think it's probably, hello everyone, going to be inconceivable to a lot of people to think that people are still crossing the start line, but their time only starts from when their chip passes the start. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
As a runner, as you're going over those mats, you give them a good stamp. Well, no, like when you're new to the marathon, you're like, are they definitely going to make sure that they get my right time? So it's good to hear that works.
So here's the thing, you see, the marathon is set up for the elites to do better, because when you're a bit further back, you've got to stand around a bit more, you know, a few people looking a little bit chilly, rubbing their arms and things. Not only that, but when you run, most of these people will run about 27 miles.
Yes,
you're looking at me as though I'm odd, but what happens is you don't run the shortest route because there's so many people on the route. So they have to run further than Mo Farah.
I thought that because when I finished, my watch was like, you've been running 27 miles, and I was like, how's that happened? But there's a blue line on the floor, isn't there, that you have to follow?
If you can see it.
Yeah.
If you can see it.
And the good thing is as well, when you do the marathon and you're running on the road, you don't need to pay attention to the traffic lights. Because, you know, Paula was saying before, stay safe. So I always used to stop when I was practicing, but in the marathon, you can run through red lights, and it feels really naughty at first. but everyone waving, everyone crossing the line, you can definitely do that.
Well, they've still got their turn to come, and still down there somewhere. Is that Radzi there? No, but I do think he has got somebody with him.
We are currently about 100 metres from the start line. 18,000 runners begin inside Greenwich Park, then funnel through this way here. So much excitement, a slight bit of trepidation, undeniably, but this is what it's all about. Let's see if we can speak to somebody. Would you like to come in for a chat? How are you feeling? Come on in, sir.
I'm here.
Lombi, how are you, sir?
I'm good, good.
You've got a smile on your face. You must be excited.
I am now. We're on our way. So.
How much training's gone into this?
Say that again?
How much training's gone into this?
Right, 25 weeks.
20, so half a year for this moment here. What time are you after?
4 hours is what I'm aiming for, but also just to enjoy it. At the end of the day, you do it once. I might come back next year, but I'm doing it for Teenage Cancer Trust. So 4 hours, get what I can.
You're doing it for a good cause. There's a lot of support behind you. Handshake for good luck.
Yes, thank you.
See you at the end.
All right, then see you at the end.
Okay, well, you can see there those kind of pink flags, if you like. They're pacers, whose job it is. They've got times on them, and that's to help people try and run at the correct pace once they do get moving. Oh, people look a little chilly, don't they?
It will be cold out there for them, but once they get started, they'll be fine, especially Big Bird there. Big Bird will be all right, and that shoe just to the right, the shoe will be fine.
Well, there are all sorts of records they're looking for today.
Good luck to Colin out there. He's a good friend of these events. He's a few of us met him this morning in the hotel. We always just call him the big pink dress because he's about 17 foot tall, Colin, but he makes all these outfits. It's his 60th different outfit. We will see him at some point, I'm sure, because he stands out and has raised so much money for different charities up and down the country, particularly in the northeast. So we'll watch out for him as well. But so many people raising, as we've said, somebody out there will raise the £1 billion for charity in the London Marathon.
Do you know, that is the reason that most of these people are going to give it their all and definitely get to the end of this race. The reason to run, the reason that these people have been training so hard over the last couple of months, been out in the cold and the dark and the rain and the wind, and yeah, just today's going to be the day that they're going to honour that money that they've raised.
So the battle for second and third place in the women's wheelchair race, and it is between Tatjana McFadden, who has 4 times won this title between 2013 and 16, just in front of Madison de Rosario, the Australian, the defending champion. And the winner finished, well, five and a half minutes ago now. Manuela Schär took a very, very impressive victory, but the battle for second and third as they enter the final 200 metres, and Tatjana McFadden, a veteran now, great experience, sits in front of Madison de Rosario, the Commonwealth champion and the winner last year in London, and I'm not sure she has the strength to get back to Tatjana McFadden.
They both look really tired in this part of the race. Tatjana's hands aren't lifting with the same kind of speed that we used to see from her. Maddie Rosario looks done in. You know, she hasn't had that much marathon racing experience. She was a real surprise winner last year, but she has to be pleased with her third place because there's so much more to come from her.
And just in distance, I think it might be Eliza O'Connell of Australia who would qualify for the Paralympics on the back of this performance. But there we are, Manuela Schär waiting well wrapped up in a blanket for Tatjana McFadden. And across the line in 4th place, might have been O'Connell. De Rosario, though, the champion from last year. And the chat, I think, the sort of common shared experience. This was Manuela Schär crossing the line, but I think they all know that it has been hard going out there today.
It's been a pretty cold and windy day for the guys in chairs, so they'll all be relieved to be getting to the finish line. It really hits them hard when the weather's as cold as this.
So Manuela Schär with the victory, and then it was Tatjana McFadden in second, Madison de Rosario in 3rd place.
Well, that's the conclusion of the wheelchair races. We still have, of course, the IPC World Championship athletes still out there. The women's elite are now approaching mile 17 after a couple of very quick miles between mile 15 and mile 16 has completely broken the field up. So let's see what has happened, because the long-time leader, of course, was past about 14 miles, and the main contenders moved past her easily. However, those 2 quick miles have really broken things up, and the big news is Mary Keitany is in the 2nd group. They're not able to go with Vivian Chariot, last year's winner, who passed Keitany, who really got it wrong last year. The pacemakers have now dropped back to these 3, if you like. Not been doing a great job, it has to be said out there. But Bridget Kosgei, the big danger, the big threat. Others saying that Derege was the big threat. Well, they're right. The 2 of them are here with Vivian Chariot, who just looks to either side. Kosgei with a couple of big half-marathon wins, quick times. There's a 5:2 mile. That's a cracking mile, a fast mile. That's why they've broken up. That's why Mary Keitany, who up until this point has been renowned for forging in the latter part of New York last year, not able to do it here, though. There were some maybe slight question marks about what sort of shape she was coming into this London Marathon in. We haven't seen her run since New York, and maybe those questions being answered right now. There she is, one of the pacemakers. Had dropped back at one point, but 2-3 of the pacemakers have dropped out now. And so it's Gladys Chirono with Dibaba just struggling now. But these 2 are having to watch Chariot and Kosgei and Derege move away from them. Yes, that's a fast mile. There's a long way to go yet, Paula. We shouldn't, by any stretch of the imagination, say that their chances have gone, because anything can happen. And we'll just break off because Charlotte Purdue still going well, getting a lot of support out there on the route. Just looks to me a little more laboured than she was a couple of miles back, but she's run a very well-measured race so far. If she keeps this up, still heading for a big personal best, and is passing people all the time.
Yeah, she is. She'll start now in the second half to see those gaps, though, get bigger and bigger ahead of her, and there's more and more just empty road that she just needs to concentrate. For the moment, she's got company, she's got a little bit of help from the pacemaker with her, but she's very focused on her own times, and I think I agree, she does look as though she's working hard, but she always looks a little bit like that, and she actually looks, to me, more relaxed than she did maybe in the first couple of the miles of the race, where she didn't look too comfortable. Now she's focused, she's breathing hard, but she's running her own race and running well so far. And back to the front, I think Vivian Chariot pushing on with this race, and that they've spread out across the road now, and each just taking their own best line here. And I don't know who you'd put your money on. I think all of these three came into it in good shape. Mary Keitany, we weren't sure because she hadn't raced. Vivian had raced in half marathon, run a personal best, and she knew that she was ready to go. We knew Koskei was ready to go.
Right, well, it's been a little bit, I wouldn't call it cat and mouse, because the mouse is going in pretty quick. The cat being Mo Farah, because Mo has on occasion been about 10-15 metres adrift of this lead group, who are motoring pretty well. Good pace in the men's race, by contrast to the women's race. They're on around 2:03 pace, 2 hours 3, maybe a little bit quicker than that. The thing that we have to clarify is in this race, Paula knows better than anyone else, there are quick miles and there are slower miles, and you have to kind of average it out, and there are parts of the course where you have to wait to see. And I think when you get to here, about 10, 11 miles, we sort of know what pace they've been on or what pace they're on and what's perhaps possible. So let's just say that if they want to, they could run pretty quick here today, certainly in the 2-3 zone. Mo Farah is there. He's just got himself latched onto the back of this group again. Main contenders expected to be in there, and they are. Kitata just taking his hat off. Man who finished second last year. Eliud Kipchoge, look at him, tucked in nicely. That line of pacemakers ahead of him, doing a great job. Two of them are his training partners. They know him well, he knows them well. And there's Mo, hat off as well. Sir Mo, behind his pacemaker. Wanjiru, Daniel Wanjiru, former winner in 2017, just ahead of him. Mo looks okay, though.
He does. He looks calm. I think he looks calmer than he did at this stage last year, where we saw him having that, I don't know, what can we call it, fiasco with his drinks bottles, where he couldn't find them and he wasn't looking for them. He was joking yesterday, and somebody asked him what his bottle looked like, and he said, well, it doesn't look like any other bottle in London today, to make sure that he knows where that is and that he's able to find it. But he's just staying at the back of this pack, not committing too much to it. Eliud, in contrast, is really the king in control of this. He's got his pacemakers in front of them. He's regularly giving his orders to them. One of them is actually one of the pacemakers who ran with him in Monza in the Breaking 2 attempt. So he's used to running in almost that formation in front of Eliud and taking his cue from him.
Well, Mo Farah is the leading British athlete, of course, as ever, but others are in the fight here to try and get selected for the World Championships and who knows what else. So, Callum Hawkins and Dewi Griffiths of Wales. Dewi Griffiths said he's coming here ready to run quick. Callum Hawkins aiming for perhaps 2:7, 2:8. Two of them have started quickly. They're right next to each other, but for Callum, of course, a huge race here. The first race since he collapsed at the Commonwealth Games in Australia last year. Let's hope he has a good one. Let's get his thoughts.
My first aim is to make it over that bridge. I don't want to be known as the guy that falls over on bridges.
And now he's hit his head on the barrier. Somebody needs to come out from there.
This is a guy in real distress.
Definitely a performance that would sort of put that to bed would be great. The plan at the moment is to go out in 63.30, which is about 2:7 pace, and then see what it's like at halfway. Whether that's speed up or hold on, we'll have to see. I feel like I'm in pretty good shape. I've been running sort of PBs for some of my sessions in the last few weeks, so I'm pretty confident. Well, I'd like to improve upon what I did here in London, and also I feel it would be a good way to gain qualification for Tokyo.
Well, he's going very well so far, in fact moving pretty quickly. As I said, we have to take a little bit of pinch of salt around these early miles, evening out, but at the moment these guys are on 2:7, just inside 2:7 pace. So they've set their stall out here to really advance their marathon careers. Callum Hawkins, Dewi Griffiths, the two of them know that there are two guaranteed spots tomorrow, the selectors. If you run under 2:13, that's the qualifying time for the World Championships, 2:13 exactly. Of course, they're well within that. I suppose the big question is Mo Farah's name going to be mentioned in that selection meeting? We'll maybe find out a bit more about that later, but for those two British men, things are going well so far, as indeed they are for Mo Farah. Well, back at the start, Adele, there is still coming across the, what is it now? They see they're 53 minutes. Well, they said 50 minutes, it's taking a little bit longer, but we're getting there.
There's Nemo, he's on the course. You know, Nell McAndrew's gone through the first marker already. She's gone past 5K. And she was saying to Gabby before that she was having nightmares. She was going to do a 4-hour marathon, which would be a dream to me. But it looks like she's doing a brilliant pace.
Yeah, don't forget, get in touch there, get inspired, and the text number was 811, what was it?
811, yeah, 81111. Or you can tweet us, hashtag
There you go.
#GetInspired, and lots of brilliant messages coming in already. So thank you very much, everyone.
Cutty Sark, one of the famous sites of the London Marathon, restored to former glories, like the rest of the commentary box, almost. And they're still moving nicely around here. Plenty of space for the runners, which is good to see.
This is where I treat myself to a gel. So when you start running, you get to have sweeties. The liquid sweeties are called gels, and it helps you run. Oh, we've got some gels in the box with us here. Oh, is that one of Paula's own? Oh, thank you. What flavour's that, Paula?
I don't know. That was
Usually
just handed to me this morning just to keep
green
it
and
going.
won't taste nice. It's, anyway, right, listen, the elite athletes are themselves having, I presume anyway, they've fueled well, and we've now got something which looks like a bid to win this. Bridget Kosgei, one of the pre-race favourites with those who thought if you're going to look outside Chariot, if Keitany's not in shape, then this is the woman who is the, I guess, the coming force in marathon running. She's had a brilliant last 12 months, ran 2 quick half marathons in preparation for this, always a good sign, doesn't always give you the full picture for marathon preparation. And this, Paula, is a brave thing to do. The pace has picked up. We've run these quick miles, it's got quicker and quicker, and she's seen the field break up and thought, this is my chance now to try and break Chariot, who just goes and makes sure she grabs a drink. But Kosgei, there's the raised eyebrows from Paula Radcliffe again, doesn't take anything on board there.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if she maybe hasn't been taking a drink all the way through, or maybe she's just so much in the zone now. She's so focused on making her break and pushing away that she didn't want to lose any time in going for that drink station. I mean, that's a fairly key drink station. That's what a 30k drink station. It's a pretty important one to miss. And it did look as though it was intentional. She didn't even blink or panic or look to the side at all. She just carried on running. Vivian Chariot did take the time to go and get hers, and maybe that will be a factor as this race goes on. Maybe it won't be. I think Vivian had already identified Kosgei as being one of the big dangers, maybe even ahead of, she didn't say as much, maybe even ahead of Mary Keitany when she was talking about the factors and the girls that she would be predominantly racing. But she's definitely not the sort of person that would have allowed that gap to open up intentionally. I think Vivian has tried to go with that and has just had to make that call. No, it's too fast for me at that point, and it's too fast because it's a 5-minute mile.
Yeah, you just saw that, Paul, another 5-minute mile. I mean, she's not hanging around. Obviously, you don't do this in the part of the race, at this stage of the race, without thinking, this is my bid to win this is my bid to build a lead and hope that I can hang on to the finish from this point. She's still running very quick, looks relaxed, as you're saying, and looks comfortable. Vivian working hard, she won't give it up. Still quite a long way to go. Well, as you can see, as I said that, thank you, Mr. Graphics, 7.2 miles to go. A little look behind from Kosgei, though, just seeing if it's having any effect, and that has actually come up as a 4:57 and then a 5-minute for mile 18, 4:57, is that right?
No, the preceding mile was 4:57, followed by a 5-minute mile, so that is what's done the damage to Vivian Chariot. That's why Vivian Chariot can't run with that, because that, at this stage in the marathon, miles 18 and 19, sub 5-minute mile and then another 5-minute mile, that's going to do damage to pretty much anyone human. And this is back to Molly Huddle now. I think she's the leading American. Emily Sisson, her training partner, is also in there. Both of these girls have their sights set on the American record.
Well, you can see there the women are heading on their way back now, and the men, though, approaching Tower Bridge. 12 miles, they will have had a good view of the Shard, heading towards the Shard, but they take that right turn over Tower Bridge. Tower Bridge is actually one of the biggest hills. It sounds silly, but it's a bit of a climb up there from the very bottom. It sort of peaks on the top because, of course, Tower Bridge opens up, and then they drop down the other side. And often that sees a pickup in pace as they know halfway is approaching, but the men have been going pretty quick anyway. And there you can see Eliud Kipchoge taking drink on board right in the middle. Mo Farah at the back of the group. Kitata, last year's second placer, in there. Kipsang to the right, just taking a drink. He's in the blue. Daniel Wanjiru just behind Mo Farah now, maybe finding the pace a little difficult at this point. And let's not forget Callum Hawkins and Dewi Griffiths having a great race, not too far behind these guys, but they're running well inside Mo Farah's so far personal best, and Mo will know that. He would have been part of the plan though. He knows that they will want Eliud Kipchoge. Is worried about Mo's ability to finish strongly, and I know that sounds a bit silly in the marathon, but he did mention it in the interview the other day, so he wants to make it hard work. That takes it into his territory, into his strengths, into what he knows he's capable of. Mo Farah at this point doesn't know if he can run 2 hours 3 for the marathon. Can he? Can he stay with this? Can he hang on to this pace? Can he stay comfortable? And then can he contend in the last few miles, which he was unable to do last year when Kipchoge really forged on and moved away. Mo still ran brilliantly to finish third. This time though, he says, I'm fitter, I'm better, I'm ready for it. Vivian Cheruiyot won't give it up, and was it too early for Kosgei? That may be the case. Vivian Cheruiyot back in the lead, Paula.
Yeah, there's a technique in the marathon, isn't there, not to burn your fuel too early, and I'm not sure if Brigid Kosgei has just done that with that 4:57, backed up by a 5-minute mile, and she's now frantically looking behind her just to see how big the gap is. Vivian Cheruiyot's reeled her in. The question is now, can she stay with Vivian, or has she run herself out of energy? I think she still looks fairly strong at this point. Maybe she was just testing a little bit, seeing could Vivian get back to her, and then she'll ask another question for real in a little bit. But there's a little change in her face, and she looks as though she's starting to reach and to struggle a little bit, Brigid Kosgei. I think Vivian Cheruiyot gives very little away on her face, doesn't she? Very focused, still almost got that track runner's way of just focusing, eyes ahead, just on the road, slightly in front of her, and just really concentrating on running her race.
Well, this looks like a great race building up here, doesn't it? Again, Vivian Cheruiyot very smartly going and taking some water on board. We saw at the last station, as we mentioned, that Kosgei didn't, and not choosing to take water on board at this point. So they've got 10K to go. And if you're a betting person, which neither of us are, Vivian Cheruiyot in a 10,000 metre race against Brigid Kosgei, you'd expect Vivian to win in a great track career, of course, but this is the marathon, this is different. They've had a few hard miles just before this. So has Kosgei got it in her legs? Looks as though she's having another little go here. Even those little speed bumps, you know, they go over, Paula, they just break your rhythm slightly. And Kosgei thinking, right, you've got back to me. I may have got that wrong a little bit, but you know what? I know that I've got to make this hard for you. I know that I've got to hurt you into the last 6 miles. I can't afford to hang around for Vivian Cheruiyot.
Yeah, she has to be thinking, I can't allow Vivian Cheruiyot to still be with me. I have to keep winding it up. And it's interesting that she's doing it with surges, not with a gradual wind up. She's really surging, then backing off a little bit, and then going again. So when she does that, Vivian is never sure which is the one for real. When is she really going to go and just maintain that?
This is the group with De Rege and Mary Keitany and Cherono. So they are in a battle for third place effectively there. I can tell you that Charlotte Purdue has picked up a couple of places. Of course, Sinead Diver is going a little bit backwards. Tess Fye is going backwards, and Rocha and Purdue moving through. Charlotte Purdue still inside 2:26 pace. And as she enters into that last 10K, hold it together now. You've put a good race together. It is the biggest test, of course, those last 6 miles. It's so far for Charlotte Purdue. She's going well, and Hayley Carruthers is heading into new territory for her in sub 2:30 pace, 2:28 pace for Hayley, ahead of Lily Partridge. So that's the battle. Should remind people, the World Championship selectors will meet tomorrow for the British team. So for the women, 2:31 exactly is the qualifying time. Steph Twell already has that, is elected not to be here today. So if you finish the top 2 Brits inside 2:31, you guarantee selection. The 3rd spot would be up to the selectors. Well, this isn't the Mary Keitany that we've seen so many times. This is somebody who's going well, going reasonably well, but after a slow first half, you just thought she might have been able to go with Chariot and with Kosgei, but not today. So this, the scrap for 3rd spot at the moment, and the front 2 seem to be going strong, seem to be having their own race well ahead of these 3.
Yeah. Just a quick update as well on Emily Sisson and Molly Huddle. They are both running on 2:23 pace. People may have wondered what I was talking about when I said the American record, because of course Dina Castor has run on 2:19, but that was in a mixed race, and this is a women's only race, and that record stands to Shalane Flanagan in Rio.
Do you know, running 1500s was just easier, you know, it's just... Well, just to explain that again for Paula's sake, she's the world record holder in the women's marathon. There were male pacemakers on that day, so this is a race without any male pacemakers, so there is a different record, 2:17.01. It's not up for grabs here for these women, though. They're going slow on that, but let's keep an eye on that, because back in the men's race, it's been all change. We saw earlier on that there was a good pace being set over Tower Bridge. There was quite a big group, including Mo Farah as well, and they went through halfway, and the men have now passed 14 miles. The women will be going in the other direction along the highway. We'll see some of the elite men. What they won't see, because that's the corner they come round, that's where they join, but Mo Farah is now dropped off that pace, as is Daniel Wanjiru, wearing number 9. Well, this is either a conscious decision from Mo Farah. We'll get the splits of this previous mile as quickly as we can to see whether or not there was an injection of pace. I don't think so. They'd run 4:43, 4:45, 4:45. But if mile 14 was significantly quicker, Mo might have made a conscious decision. So we're just waiting for the 14th mile to come up. It's a 4:32. It's just come up. So that's 10, 11 seconds surge, if you like, and that's maybe why Mo Farah's thought, no, I'll let that go, because I'm not sure that's wise for me to cover that. Now, long way to go, and it's a risk to let such good men move ahead of you. It's a risk to try to stick to your plan and hope that others falter. But he's close enough at this point, and if that gap doesn't get too big, he's still capable of running well in the last 3 or 4 miles. But at the moment, Mo Farah finds himself about 5 or 6 seconds adrift of Eliud Kipchoge up there. Katata is up there as well. Geremu, Wazihan, the other 2, and Tola indeed, the other Ethiopians who haven't been talked about much, but they certainly have the pedigree to run well here. They've got fast times, not here in London, elsewhere, but proving that they're coping with this fast pace in London. But look at Kipchoge, Paula. He's metronomic. He never looks disturbed. He never looks anything other than the supreme marathon running machine that he is. Looks comfortable, doesn't he?
He's just serene, isn't he? Nothing really shows or bothers him at all. It's almost as if he was running on a really perfectly smooth treadmill amongst everybody else, and nothing else moves apart from his feet. He's just not wasting any energy worrying about anything. Even his eyes are just drilled almost into the same spot the whole way. And I think if anybody wants a lesson in running economy and how to run it in the most economical way, then you can't go wrong in studying Eliud Kipchoge. Just at the back of that group, Tola is now starting to drop off and drift back towards Mo Farah, and one of the pacemakers just running alongside Mo. Geremu also looks very, very good at this point.
Yeah, just an update a little bit further back. Mo's training partner is actually 1 place behind him, although he's about almost 2 minutes behind him on the road. That's Abdi. And just behind him, Callum Hawkins and Dowie Griffiths are in a group of 12th, 13th, 14th, round about there. And they're still on 2.7 pace, the other two British athletes, which is good running from them. That's through halfway, 63.25 for those two British athletes through halfway. So Hawkins and Dowie Griffiths going well, going to plan for them. Not quite going to plan so far for Mo Farah. And as Wanjiru moves away from him, lots of support, so many people come onto the streets today to hope to see Mo Farah. Can he contend with Kipchoge? That's a gap which is not necessarily getting any bigger.
No, that wasn't Wanjiru moving away from him, that's him reeling in Tola.
Sorry,
he's come off the bike of the front group. So he is working his way back towards that group. You can see he's gone quite quickly past Tola there now, and he will set his sights on that lead group and hope that that was a surge that is now going to settle a little bit and allow himself to get latched onto the back of it.
So Mo Farah then doing his best, watching that group ahead of him, just knows that he can't give them too much. He's been, I think, wise to just be careful about the surges in pace. We saw what happened to Kosgei when she first went away from Chariot, and then Chariot got back to her. We'll shortly go back and see what's happening in the women's race. In fact, let's go and have a little look now, because it may well be a little bit of a change. There's a 4:34 for that mile in the men's race. We'll keep an eye on that. Kosgei leads now, again, not by much though, just a few meters ahead of Chariot. Then the chasing pack, that's Katani and Dereje and Chirono. Chirono on the right, Mary Katani right on the left, the Ethiopian in the middle of the two Kenyans. This is a great race up front, isn't it? This is, I'll have a go, I'm going to try and break you, no you won't. Now I'm going to try and break you again, no you won't. You know, look at Chariot hanging in there, got a drink in hand. Kosgei's decided almost on each station not to take a drink, but keeps looking behind. You'd be saying, Paula, don't look behind, just go for it now.
Yeah, I had that drilled into me. My dad used to say, biggest sign of weakness is looking behind you. And not only that, in the marathon, when you keep looking behind like that, there's a real danger that you're just going to trip and fall over. But she's done it a lot, and I think she's now checking on the status and the progress that she's made with that latest surge that she's laid down. Vivian taking the time to take her drink and then throw that bottle away to the side. I think now she'll put her head down again and work her way back to Kosgei. So she's running a much more even pace, and Kosgei is really surging, then backing off and surging again. This section of the course that they're running through now is probably the loudest section as well, and definitely the most support on this section, where you can see the men runners going in the other direction as the female runners are coming back this way.
Well, you know, we talked about how slow it was early on, but they are now heading for a sub 2:20 clocking, which, given how slow it was, shows the different nature of, we saw it in New York, we're seeing it here in London. Such a quick second half to the race, particularly I think the last 5 or 6 miles here. So we've got 4 miles to go. There's another 5:05. Phenomenal running from Bridget Kosgei here. This looks like it could be the break that's significant, but 4 miles to go. Still an awful lot can happen. She must be really confident about how she feels to be forging on like that. These are charging as well. If Vivian Chariot really falters, she could come in to some danger from these. They're quite a way back, but Dereje just forging it on.
Yeah, that's the judgment call that Vivian Chariot has to make. Does she risk it all to try and stay with Bridget Kosgei, or does she make sure that she keeps enough in reserve in case somebody else is feeling great behind and starts to really close that gap? It's a long gap at the moment. As we look up the road ahead of them, it's difficult to pick out the figure, well, she's a tiny figure anyway, of Vivian Chariot, but it seems a long way up the road, and we just saw them go through this very section here.
So the women have passed 22 miles. Now we'll drop down onto the embankment very, very shortly. Men, though, around Canary Wharf, these fiddly little miles, if you like, where things can change, and the pace at the front has been pretty consistently quick. It picked up between miles 14 and miles 15. Mo Farah dropping off the lead group. The pacemakers have gone now. So Eliud Kipchoge, look at him, focused. Absolutely not interested in anybody else but his own plan, his own ability, his own strength, his own history. The world record holder in Berlin last year. 34 years of age and a good few days, but Kipchoge, has he still got his best running ahead of him? Well, certainly here in London, he looks capable of producing a 4th victory, but he's got company. They're all Ethiopian, though. It's Geremu, Kitata, 2nd last year, Wazahan also there, Gabi Selassie close by, so he looks as though he's struggling a little bit to hang on to this. And Mo Farah still chasing. What you have to accept, Mo has picked up his pace. Mo has got quicker, but these have got a little more quicker than he has managed to pick up. So he's in a little bit no man's land here. And I think it's smart from Mo. He's running a pace which he knows, I can maintain this, I can keep this going to finish. Have the others got it wrong? Maybe not Kipchoge. We'll be hope that one by one they drop off this group, gives them something to work off, gives them something to work towards. This race isn't over.
No, not at all. I think you have to be smart in the marathon. You have to stick to your pace, and you have to be able to judge within your body what you're capable of doing on this day, and almost ride that line. And if you cross that line, you're going too quick and you're not going to be able to maintain it to the finish. And if you just stay on it, you can run as fast as you're capable of doing on that day. And I think that's what Mo's trying to do. And if I tell you that the lead group have just been past the 15-mile split, and they've gone through just 1 second quicker than the course records actual splits of Kipchoge when he ran 2:03.05. So given that Mo's personal best is 2:05.11 and he's within sight of that group at that pace, I think it would be foolhardy of him to have almost gone with that pace. It's better to run where he's running and to hope, as you say, that there are men in that lead group ahead of him who are not capable of maintaining that to the finish, because that's a fair bet.
Well, work to do for Mo Farah in the women's race. We saw Kosgei make this real big bid as she will drop down onto the river, past the Tower of London. That's where it's the temptation for those not having a good day in the elite race to just pop back to the hotel, because that's where they've been based for the last few days. But Brigid Kosgei thinking about nothing else than winning this London Marathon now. She does have Vivian Chariot behind her, but she's now a good 100 meters behind. And Kosgei moving towards mile 23, and then she'll see Big Ben in the distance. She knows this course. She was 2nd here last year when, like Chariot, had a good second half of the race when they saw Keitany fall apart. Keitany dropping off the pace all the time. Today she's still in a battle for 3rd place though. There's Mary Keitany, 1:02. Del Rege, 1:06, 1:04, Gladys Chirono. And we're just watching a little bit further down for Charlotte Purdue coming through 35k. The leading athletes have gone through, and she's just gone through in 13th place. Having a great race, Charlotte Purdue, heading for a massive personal best. If she can hold it together in the last 3 or 4 miles, she's going to head for a 2:26 clocking or thereabouts. Meanwhile, talk about holding it together. 5 minutes. 5 minutes for that mile for Brigid Kosgei. Superb running from her. Well judged. 3 miles, 5k or thereabouts to go for the leader. Eliud Kipchoge round that corner. As I said, it's the twists and turns around Canary Wharf. Just have to be a little bit careful of. Can sap the energy a little bit. Someone makes a bit of a break. We said that Gebre Selassie was the first one to look as though he was struggling in this group, and there he is. Mo Farah now maybe about 10 seconds behind the leaders here. There he is. He'll notice that one of them has dropped off. He'll start to have him as a target, get his eyes set on him. Mo's still running well. Mo Farah is still heading for a big personal best here if he holds this together, but sadly at the moment it's not quick enough. It's not quick enough to hang on to Kipchoge. But what Mo will be thinking is, you know, those who go with Kipchoge do so at their peril, and if they can live with him, they'll try to as long as they can, but when they go, they'll come back quickly to Mo, and you know that will help him. He was 3rd last year. There are more athletes ahead of him at this point than there were last year, but he knows that the race isn't over. There they are, Kipchoge, Garamu, Kitata, second last year, Wazihan. These two, Garamu and Wazihan, having great races here. Just, I always wonder why at this point you're going to just spread out a little bit, almost tripping over each other's feet there. But actually, by being in that group, you just get towed a little bit, don't you? That you're running right alongside, right behind somebody. It always helps.
Yeah, it's not actually drafting, but it definitely helps to. I think it's more that your mind can switch off a little bit, so you're not using that energy to concentrate. Although it looks as though Kipchoge is using very little energy to just break the air in front and keep pushing on. And now it's definitely him dictating to the others, and they're holding on. I think of the guys behind them, you can see how their faces are focused on just trying to cling on to the heels of Eliud Kipchoge. They're almost watching his heels while they're running, and I think that's why they're kind of making a formation behind him. Interestingly, the guy between Mo and this pack is Luel Gebrselassie, so he's now working on trying to pull him in and then try and keep moving ahead and towards, if he can keep moving towards this lead group of 4.
Well, we were talking about what was happening in the women's race. Koskai's leading, big lead now over Chariot, then a chasing group of 3, and then positions changing behind, as there's the leading British man, and here's the leading British woman having a cracking race. Charlotte Purdue at the tower, no pacemaker anymore, and she's catching, that's Molly Huddle. This is a brilliant run from Charlotte Purdue. The British crowd's cheering her on, heading for a big personal best, heading for perhaps even getting into the top 10. She's now in 13th, going to move into 12th place if she passes Molly Huddle. So she's still got time to catch 1 or 2 others. They're quite a way ahead of her on the road, it has to be said. But Paula, this is a great run from Charlotte. It's a huge run, and I think she's going to be hugely inspired as well when she moves past Molly Huddle, because Molly will be someone that she's looked up to for a long time. And so to pull alongside her, move in front of her, I think she might also have overtaken Tess Fye, which means that next place ahead, she will be going into that top 10. If Boka is still ahead of her, then she will be able to pull past her. She gets herself into the top 10, so she must be able to see that. Hopefully, some people out on the course are maybe feeding that information to her as well. But to be honest, at this point, she's concentrating on running as hard as she can anyway. Heading for a big personal best, but the significance, just to remind you, if you're just tuning in, if you finish in the top 10 now, one of the world majors, of which, of course, London is one of them, that acts as a qualification performance for the Olympic Games. Doesn't guarantee your selection, but it means that you've done a qualifying performance by finishing in the top 10. Of course, she's running quick enough anyway, but that's a huge performance so far for Charlotte Purdue, as indeed it is for our leader, Brigid Kosgei. This woman who so many people around the hotel this week were saying, watch out for Brigid, she's in great shape. And she knows the route. Good performance last year. She had to give way to Vivian Chariot, but not this time. 5:05. This, when we add up all of these miles for this last half, it will be an incredibly quick. If she finishes this off over the last couple of miles, it was slow, really slow by comparison to what we were expecting for the first half. And then gradually we got into miles 14 and 15, and then Kosgei, with, at that point, a couple of the others moved on the pace, and then we were left with Kosgei and Chariot, and now it's just Kosgei. This is the battle for third, we think. I can't see, I think I can see Chariot a long way behind Kosgei, but these guys are still together. We will try and get a shot of, there she is. Yeah, she's just coming through the bridge. Second place, still going quite well, Vivian Chariot, but to be fair, Kosgei clicking off sub 5 minute and close to 5 minute miles for the last 5 or 6 miles. No wonder Chariot has been left trailing. No, not at all. I mean, I think when you put down 2 or 3 miles at that pace, that's going to ask questions of everyone around you. But she's been knocking these out since mile 18 now, so that has to do a lot of damage. And actually, look in the long shot behind. Is that the next female athlete, or is that? No, sorry, that's not. No, the group are still a little further behind Paula, but Chariot just finding these little underpasses through the bridges along the river there. These little rises, you know, you're nodding.
Tough.
Yeah.
They are tough, and they don't look very steep. But when you're already in the 24th mile and your legs are tired, and when you've been trying to live with a 5-minute mile pace for the past few miles, then that feels like a mountain in front of you. So that was hard work for her, but she's now up, I think, the last of those, and she can concentrate on pouring everything that she's got left into this last couple of miles along the embankment.
So Kosgei looking good at this point, still heading for something under 2 hours 20, which, given that they went so slow early on, is remarkable running from her. Mo Farah still running down those ahead. That's Gebrselassie, who's dropped off the front group. Well, he's had a battle with one Haile, the more famous Gebrselassie this week. Just looking at his watch there, passing the water station, focused on what's ahead. A little bit breezy as well, you can see just rippling his shirt. I think when they turn back along the embankment, it's actually going to be a little bit helpful. They get protected a little bit more. So this looks tough. This looks hard work for Mo Farah now. Still running well, still running perhaps towards a personal best, although he looks to me as though he's slowing a little bit, Paula, not really making any inroads to those leading four.
Yeah, I think it'd be hard to make inroads on that leading four right now because of the pace that they're moving at. But the significant thing as well is that he was in a really twisty section, so he couldn't see that lead group ahead of him. And that's hard. When you can see what you're trying to work towards, it's always easier than when they're out of sight. And that's why when you do make a breakaway, it's a good idea to make that breakaway on a twisty section so you can hide yourself out of sight from the chasers, and as we see now, Mo hasn't yet come around that corner, and by the time he comes around they will have already made the next corner.
Well, when they come through this area here, and we'll see the leaders, and Mo Farah will follow them, not too far behind. Hopefully we'll get you a shot of really good progress being made by Callum Hawkins and Dewi Griffiths. Callum's actually picked up the pace, so that'll be good news for him. But Mo Farah, well, you know, he is our best British athlete. Callum Hawkins is heading for a sub-2.7 clocking at the moment. Mo's heading for something obviously a fair bit quicker than that, around about the 2.3 or between 2.3 and 2.4 mark, depending on how he finishes this. But nonetheless, this is a good day for British marathon running, men and women so far. Few miles yet to go, but Mo going well, moving into new territory. Hawkins, Griffiths the same as for Charlotte Purdue as well.
And just a quick note as well, Johnny Mellor is having a good run too. He's on a sub-2.10 clocking pace at the moment, in 19th position, just ahead of Tuelda.
All good news. Speaking of good performances from British athletes, really am excited for Charlotte Purdue here. You know, the good thing, Paul, is she's moving well now. You know, you sometimes get 35k and you think that they're slowing, but she's not. You know, she's really forging on. Past Molly Huddle, not sure how far ahead the next athlete is. We think it might be either Rocha or we'll get they'll be approaching 40k soon. We'll get a bit of an idea then. But she's not too, we think she's 11th at this point. So Charlotte Purdue, you know, and it's been a long career for Charlotte and a long journey to get the marathon right as well. You know, she's had her ups and downs. She's had a couple of steps forward and then, you know, injuries and the rest of it. But this is her coming of age at this distance.
It is, and she needs to keep looking up the road ahead of her. At the 35-kilometre split, Rocha was 30 seconds roughly ahead of Molly Huddle, so she can't be that far ahead now. Molly is just behind, so maybe as she looks up ahead of the road, Charlotte can actually see her where we can't, but she's got to be pouring just everything that she's got left into this now, and she will be enjoying the encouragement, but also just really wishing and wishing for that turn at Big Ben where she knows there's only 1,200 metres left to go.
Well, there's a clutch of British athletes. You know, there's you, of course, there's Mari Yamauchi 2:23, and then there's a clutch of athletes around that kind of 2:25, 2:26 mark, and she's moving into that. She's going to run a top 10 British performance, I think, certainly. It's just a question of how quick she can finish this race here. Well, no doubt about Koskai, Paula. What was that, a 5.3 the previous mile? It's not slowing down.
She's not slowing down much at all. I mean, that is quite slow compared to the 4:57, isn't it? But all things in perspective, she's still moving very, very fast. I still haven't seen her take any fuel or any drinks on board, which is phenomenal. And she's now that she's away, she's stopped looking behind her. So she was looking behind frantically when she was trying to forge that gap, but now if she looked, she'd see that that gap is huge. Vivian Chariot isn't in sight behind her.
Well, this is the chase, the third spot. Let's not forget Vivian Chariot is second. Vivian Chariot is a minute behind Koskai, and then these three are a minute behind Chariot. So I think that's, the top two are safe, I think, in terms of, I don't think Chariot's going to be caught by these three, but the third place still very much up for grabs. So Koskai leading it, a good lead, well over a minute actually, a minute and 10 seconds almost now, and Chariot a good minute ahead of that chasing group. So while Koskai has the road all to herself, we still have 4 men locked together with Eliud Kipchoge at the front. The 3 Ethiopians there, Kitata, Geremu, Wazahan, the 3 of them just following every stride, every move that he makes. They know he's the best, they know he's the quickest, the fastest, the strongest, mentally strong as well as physically strong, but they're still there and they're still with him. Little blowout of the cheeks from Kipchoge. Don't often see that even, do you? Changing the facial expression as he breathes out. They're working hard here.
They are working hard, but he's hardly sweating, is he? I mean, the others are sweating, they're working really hard, and he's just almost cruising along. It is deceptive when you've seen him even running in the breaking two when he was pushing himself to his absolute limit when he set his world record. He still looked like that, so you can't get a lot from the facial expressions. You can maybe get a little bit more from the facial expressions of Mo, and he's starting to grit his teeth a little bit more. You can tell he's working hard, but he's also sticking to the pace that he knows he's capable of doing today.
Well, we're just moving out here. There's Birdcage Walk as St James's Park. And the right-hand turn, there's around 400 metres to go when she eventually reaches there. Still a little bit of running left to do here. And you know, we talked for a long time about, I think we were talking at the press conference the other day about, Paula moved things on to 2:15. The 2:20 is still a benchmark for so many women. There's a lot more women have done it now, and I think it was mentioned, and forgive me if I can't remember exactly how many women have broke 2:20, but it's still at a significant time. And to think that Koskai today is going to run under 2:20, having run such a slow first half, phenomenal performance. They went through halfway in 71.22, I think it was. So let's see what she finishes in. This is the winner, Brigid Koskai, less than 600 to go, and it's been a phenomenal performance.
Yeah, I think she's even going to crack 2:19, or she's going to be very, very close to it, because she's within almost approaching 400 metres now of that finish. So no, she's going to be just, oh no, she might go, Kit. It's going to be close, and it's certainly going to be one of the fastest second halves that we've seen here.
So Brigid Koskai, a couple of more turns. She comes out under the spectator bridge. She'll now have her first view of Buckingham Palace, and then there'll be one last right-hand turn into the Mall in front of us here. And what a race it's been. She made one big effort to break Vivian Chariot. We thought she might have got that wrong, maybe had gone a little bit too early, because Chariot reeled her back in because she's a redoubtable competitor and didn't want to give up her victory, her defending, or she is the defending champion, or was, too easily. But then Koskai relentlessly, mile after mile after mile of incredibly quick running around the 5-minute per mile mark. Phenomenal strength, phenomenal fortitude, and of course phenomenal talent. Brigid Koskai, who's had a brilliant 12 months or so. She was second here in London last year, but now she's come to take what will be a remarkable victory given the style of the race this year. And Koskai will go under 2:20, that's for sure. It's a superb performance from the Kenyan. her first win in London. Bridget Kosgei is the 2019 champion. Now we'll get the figures going on that. It's broken a personal best. I reckon that was around about 67 minutes, or very close to 67 minutes exactly for the second half. We'll get that confirmed for you, and that is quick. There aren't too many women in the world can run 67 minutes for a half marathon. Never mind do that for the second half of a marathon. So Kosgei is the champion. Defeated Vivian Cheruiyot. We'll watch for Vivian coming around the corner very, very shortly. Over a minute behind Bridget Kosgei. As ever, when you've won, you look as though you could just go and do it all again. Here's Vivian Cheruiyot.
I think she did look refreshingly a bit tired, though, after all of that, didn't she? Here is Vivian Cheruiyot, who does look tired. I mean, Bridget Kosgei has spectacularly reversed the tables on Vivian from last year. The 1-2 last year have gone 2-1 this time, and the battle is still on for that third place. But Vivian has worked hard today. She gave it everything. She tried to go with that third. She may ask herself with hindsight, if she pushed on quicker in the first half, would she have been closer in the end? But she'll never know those answers now.
Well, Mark Butler, as ever, straight on the case, our statistician. So we think that was the quickest ever second half in a marathon, quicker than Mary Keitany last year. We think it was 66.42. We'll get that all confirmed. It was 66.58 last year. So Bridget Kosgei, and I think they actually only got going at about, they had about a mile thinking about it, yes. Well, a very tired Vivian Cheruiyot, last year's champion, Olympic champion, world champion on the track, is a great marathon runner. She'll have better days than this. Not her race today. Maybe the type of race which was delivered not suiting her. But Vivian Cheruiyot takes second place. Another good, solid performance. And then not far behind, it looks as though Derege just moving ahead of Cherono. Mary Keitany will finish outside the top three again. So Derege just getting enough. It's hard to call it a sprint finish at the end of a marathon, but that's what we have here. So it will be Kenya 1, Kenya 2, Ethiopia 3. Cherono finishes fourth again, and Mary Keitany has to settle for fifth on this occasion. All three have run a fast second half as well, just not as quick, not as good as Kosgei managed to achieve. Well, we'll keep counting them across the line, because we're really interested to see in what position Charlotte Purdue will finish. She'll be the first British finisher. But a quick word on Mary, perhaps, and the battle for third.
I think Rola Derege kind of said it all with the eye roll as she crossed the finish line. She'd given absolutely everything, and I don't think she even knows yet the result of the race, because they were so far ahead of her. So they have to go and find that out. That certainly won't please Mary Keitany. But just coming around the corner, I think, onto the mall, not too far away, will be Emily Sisson, who is on track for a very, very good run. Last check I had on her, she was in the 2:23s, so I think she may be the next one round after Keitany. So we're waiting for her to make the turn into the mile, and then behind her should be Dibaba, and then Lynette Massey's in there somewhere, and Charlotte Purdue trying to break into that top 10.
Well, we'll keep an eye on Charlotte finishing shortly. We think she's 10th or 11th, but there's the winners. Bridget Kosgei, Vivian Cheruiyot, Derege of Ethiopia, first, second and third. Who is going to win the men's race, though? We'd hope that Mo Farah could stay with the very good pace, the very hot pace being set in the men's race. And the men, though, through 30k, we're still on for sub 2:3. Mo Farah still on for somewhere between 2:3 and 2:4, but looks a little more tired now. So there's Mo. Kipchoge leading that group there. They're heading into the last few miles. The women are finishing. This is Emily Sisson. Paula was just talking about a huge performance from her. This is a great run and a new personal best.
A new personal best, a new US women's only record. It's a debut at the distance as well. So huge congratulations to Emily Sisson. That's a great run out there today.
And I keep coming back to this point about Olympic qualification. It's a whole new world that all the athletes are moving into around how to qualify for the Olympics, world rankings, performances in world events like the World Majors can qualify you for the Olympics now. So that's a massive boost for her. And here is the woman who was leading for so long, has done well to hold this together, Paula.
She has, and she's also going to run a personal best. I think that's got to be fairly up there as well in the World Masters standings, given that Sinead Diver, I hope she doesn't mind me saying, is 42, so that's a phenomenal run from her. I think she's just seen the clock and a little smile crossing her face as well. So all of that hard work that she put on, committing to that in the early stages, has paid off, and she's going to cross the line. She's going to have just missed the, she will have missed the Australian record, but it will be a significant personal best by a minute or so.
7th place then for the Australian. What a performance from her. And we always talk about the African athletes, but there's some great performances coming in. Rocha is going to be the next to cross the line as well, and she's having a cracking race behind her. But well done, the 42-year-old Sinead Diver with a brilliant performance. Here's Rocha heading for a sub-2:25 clocking. Charlotte Purdue's not far away. This is for 8th and 9th place. We're hoping she can get in the top 10. That's Rocha coming through. Another brilliant performance, and it's been a good day today for the elite athletes. She gets a personal best by, well, about 40 seconds for the Portuguese athlete. And here's a very, very tired Dibaba, carrying that famous name, of course, Birhan Dibaba. And here she comes into behind Birhan Dibaba. I think this is 9th. There's Dibaba, and I think 10th place. And a brilliant performance from Charlotte Purdue. She's heading for sub-2:26. This is a massive run for her. Not only a position in the race, but look at this. She said, I'm going to go with a 2:26 pace, and she stuck to her plan incredibly well. Charlotte Purdue heading for the race of her life in terms of the time, also the race of her life in terms of her position. Well done, Charlotte Purdue. 2:25.38 or thereabouts. We think that will make her Britain's 3rd best ever marathon runner. Brilliant run.
Well done, Charlotte. She's exhausted, isn't she? But when you tell her that she's just gone ahead of the likes of Veronique Moreau, Priscilla Welsh and Liz McColgan, she's going to be very, very happy with that. And she's also qualified herself with that top 10 placing as well. So well done, Charlotte. Go and have a good rest now.
Lynette Massai, that's a world champion behind Charlotte Purdue from the track. What a race, what a performance from her. She said, I was in the shape of my life, I've prepared for this so well, but I was so impressed with, you know, when the people at the front were going so slow, her pace was spot on to what she said. The pacemaker just stayed with her, did a great job, worked her through, which was excellent. Molly Huddle, well, she'll get the news that Emily Sisson has taken that US record. Not a bad performance from Molly Huddle, but on a day when others are really putting in some massive performances, she's finished outside the top 10. That'll be a disappointment for her. 12th place for Molly Huddle.
Okay. That's all right. This way.
Back with the men, this is Kipchoge. That group of 4 still there. Kipchoge, Geremu, Kitata, Wazahan, nothing to choose, as there hasn't been for what, the last 6 miles between these. Mo Farah well away in the distance, still going okay. Mo, he looks a little bit more laboured though, and Mo Farah knows that the race for the champion is ahead of him. He's in his own personal race to try and run quicker than he has done before. And I'll give you the update that Callum Hawkins is still going well, a little bit further back behind Mo Farah. That is something which we will keep an eye on. And also the rest of the British women, because Hayley Carruthers, the last we saw, and Lily Partridge still had a chance of that qualifying time of 2:31. They were obviously not going quite as fast as Charlotte Purdue, but they're not too far away. So we think Lily Partridge is heading to be the 2nd British athlete home. Hayley Carruthers not too far behind. Well, here's Callum Hawkins. I said he's having a cracking race. 5 miles to go, got his head down, working hard. The memories of the Commonwealth Games being banished away because this is a breakthrough performance for Callum Hawkins. Is going incredibly well. He even picked up the pace after halfway for 3 or 4 miles, and he's got somebody with him. That's good, Paul. They work together, the two of them.
It is, and how good is it to see Callum back running well? I think so many of us expected great things of him, and it was heartbreaking to watch what happened on the Gold Coast. And he's taken his time to build himself back, to recover, and then to work back from there. But he's come in quietly to this race, and he's come in quietly, expecting a good performance and wanting to run his own race. So it's great to see him forging ahead. And he had company for a little bit, but he's now put his head down, and he's pushing on ahead, trying to keep chasing that time and keep chasing the next person up the road.
And I think this is the battle for 10th place. I think this is 10th and 11th we're looking at here. So like Charlotte Purdue, he's not only running a great time, and it'll move him, you know, he could even yet finish second on behind Mo Farah in terms of British all-time, certainly right up there, the 2.7 mark. But this is also a battle for a top 10 placing. So much significance in this run from Callum Hawkins. There's still some work to do, still some miles to run, still some hard work. He's working so hard. Look at that expression on his face.
He already is working hard, and if you're out there, give Callum that information, give him a shout on, but don't forget as well that his mentor, I mean, his dad coaches him, but his mentor is Steve Jones, and nobody knew how to work harder than Steve Jones. So if Callum's picked up a little bit of that grit, and he had a fair bit of it already, then he can really pull on that and draw on that in these closing stages and put everything that he's got left into this.
Grabbing his drink, as all of the elites know is so important, but at the front, Kipchoge still got company. Geramu looking perhaps the most likely. Kitata just a yard or two off this. Kipchoge, though, you know, he gives you nothing. There's not a flicker of emotion. There's not a flicker of a sense of fatigue. There's not a look round. Oh, look, see, as soon as I said there's not a look round, he looks round. Well, he can see they're still there. He knows he's got work to do here to break this up.
Well, he's not a machine. He has to look around to be able to gauge what's going on and to assess what he needs to do in the race, but he does give very, very little away. I mean, Elliot's talked about the fact that the majority of the training for the marathon is actually training your mind, and I think he's very right there. You need to concentrate on training your mind to be able to maintain that concentration, to keep tuning into every bit of information that he needs to know, and none of the wasted information that he doesn't need to be using as a drain on his energy. The one who is struggling a little bit for me at this point is not Wassihan Kitata, because he's drifting a little bit, just switching from side to side at the back of that group. So if there is one going to drop off this group and drift back towards Mo Farah, then I think it might be Kitata.
So the four of them locked together, heading down towards the embankment. Well, we've been trying to obviously keep you abreast of what's happening in the men's race and the finishing of the women's race. We saw a great performance from Charlotte Purdue, and it was all changed in the last couple of kilometres behind Charlotte Purdue. Lily Partridge was in a position of hoping to be the second British athlete. However, the news is that she was passed in the latter stages. Trish Jones, look at the smile on her face. She's managed to pass Lily Partridge in the latter stages, so it's Tish Jones, and look at that there, she's got to move, she's got to go, can she? I don't know, she knew there the time, because 2:31 exactly is the qualifying time for the World Championships, so if she gets an official time, and I'm going to try and look on the computer to see what it comes up as, an official time.
2:31 flat. Does that count?
2:31 flat. The selectors have that as the qualifying time. Sadly for Lily Partridge, she's going to be outside of that. Looks very, very tired indeed. So Tish Jones may well have given herself the chance to be named in the British team for the World Championships. And Lily Partridge, who for so long, she went with Charlotte Purdue and then started to stagger home. And I can see in front of me Hayley Carruthers also coming in behind Lily Partridge. Hayley's got just 100 meters to go. A brave effort. This young lady is still learning the marathon, and this morning I saw she was full of enthusiasm. She went off really quickly, it has to be said, and look, is paying for it. And she's still going to run a personal best here, just about, so she's struggling to get to the finish line. But Hayley had a go today. She had a real go. Was running sub 2:30 like Lily Partridge for most of the route. And you have to hand it to Tish Jones. She judged her race better, came through better. I hope Hayley's okay. Looks very, very tired. I hope, oh, they need to get and help her. She'll be okay. Well done, Hayley. Well, Hayley has just run a personal best. She's okay. She knows she has to get across the line.
She knows she has to get across the line, and the others know they can't help her.
2.5 minutes or more better than she's ever done before. But what a brave effort. She had a real go there.
She did, and she's okay. She's just given everything that she had in her body there today, and you could see her as she progressed up the mile. She was struggling to lift her feet up with each step, but she knew she had to get across the line. And sadly, the people trying to help her knew that they also had to try and let her get across the line before they could go and help her.
She's talking to the medics. She's just very exhausted, and you know, when you go out, I admire people who kind of think, no, you know, I'm gonna have a go today, because in the marathon that's what can happen. But she managed to get the finish line. She will, when she recovers, be rewarded with the new personal best. So good performances from the British women. Tish Jones qualifying, we think, will have to get the official time. She may well have got herself in the team for Doha, but what a race we have here in the men's. Here's the main story. At the front, Kipchoge has not managed to break the field. Mo Farah is still chasing, heading for a personal best. Callum Hawkins is heading for a personal best, and others behind putting in good performances as well. But Kipchoge, for once, looks as though he's breaking one of them. Maybe Katata just trying to hang on. There's Mo. He's in 5th place, all on his own. But he knows that he's just got to get his head down and try and finish, try and get the time, if nothing else here.
Yeah, all on his own, but he just needs to stay focused and trying to chase him down, although we don't know how far back this is. But that's Callum Hawkins, who's just gone past Daniel Wanjuri, who was running with Mo, what, about 10k ago? So he's drifted back, and Callum, you can see there the difference in pace. Wanjuri has nothing left. He can't give any more, and Callum has almost blown past him. And that will give him a boost too, and he'll be getting some shouts and some information probably from the side of the road as well that may give him a bit more than we know in terms of those gaps ahead of him. What do you reckon?
Well, just through the gap between the vans there, we can see that Katata, who finished 2nd last year, has now dropped off the place. He looked as though he was struggling a little bit. And Kipchoge, and this is what he has to do. One by one, he's got to get rid of them. That's what it'll be in his head. I've got rid of one, we're down to 3, or 2 others for him. Geramu does look comfortable. These guys have run well in Dubai, other events, but this is London, this is different. And the only man who knows these last 2 miles, he knows them better than anybody else, is Eliud Kipchoge. He knows what the finish is like. He knows what's ahead of him. Mo looks tired now, working hard. The crowd will lift him, and he's still heading for something good. They're approaching 40 kilometers. We'll get another split then. But at the last split, he was dropping all the time, but he still could run a personal best. I think he's likely to be in the 2.4 range now, but he'll want to get under 2.5 if he can. By contrast, Callum Hawkins is right on the 2.7 mark. Dowie Griffiths still heading for sub 2.10 if he can hold it together. There's Hawkins. These, I think, are now in 9th and 10th with 11th behind them. So a top 10 performance for Hawkins if he can hold it together here.
And you see, I mean, they have very different running styles anyway, Mo Farah and Callum Hawkins, but you can see a big difference in those styles. Mo is definitely working a lot harder, trying to force each stride if he can, just find a little bit more energy, and he's getting that support and that energy from the crowds as well, and he will be able to do it. We saw last year how well he could hang on, having gone through so hard on the first half, but Callum looks a lot stronger, and he's making bigger inroads at this stage in the race.
They're heading for the quickest ever London Marathon. The fastest time that we've seen previous to this was from Eliud Kipchoge when he ran just outside 2 hours and 3 minutes. We could have 3 men inside 2 hours and 3 on this occasion, because the other two look as though they've still got plenty of running in them. Are we to see a surprise here? Nobody has lived with Kipchoge in the past at this part of the race when he's going this fast. So Kipchoge, his last 9 marathons he's won, including the world record, including 3 times winning here at London, attempting to be the first man ever to win 4. But, and it's a massive but here, he's got 2 hungry athletes alongside him who would love nothing better to be the man who beat Eliud Kipchoge, and the fact that they're both Ethiopian just adds a little bit of spice to it as well.
It does, and that's what I was just going to say. What is going through his head now? Because as you said, he's used to kind of having it all his own way by this stage in the race, and I think he has already asked some of the questions that he would have planned to ask of the others, and he would have expected maybe to have whittled it down a little bit more at this point, and to have sensed a bit more weakness in the guys running alongside him, and now he must be thinking, well, what's the next plan? Where am I going to go next? And his mind, those wheels will be turning, and he will be thinking about all the different scenarios, the different ways that he can play out the rest of this race to his advantage.
Pressure is on now. He's turning the screw. You can see the cadence has just lifted a little bit. This is the big effort to break them. He was ahead by this time last year. He'd already got the lead. But this time, Wazahan responding. I thought just for a minute he looked as though he might be faltering. And then on the inside, Geremu, the two of them stride for stride with the great man. Along the embankment, the long sweeping curve, there it is, towards Big Ben in the distance. Then they take the right-hand turn into Birdcage Walk. Will they still be locked together? No, because look, Wazahan, all of a sudden, it's funny, isn't it? What happens, Paula, is he looked like he was, then he surged to, I'll try and hang on, and then you fall apart. So now we're down to 2.
Yeah, it's almost like you're reaching, and can see that overstriding happen as they try and maintain contact. And then just like a bit of elastic snapping, it's gone. And now Wazahan is really struggling and drifting backwards quite quickly. And Eliud Kipchoge smartly at that point, remember to get his bottle. Geremu's forgotten his, or has decided not to take it. Stayed on the other side of the road. And what that's doing is psychologically putting a gap. It's not actually a significant gap distance-wise in the race at this point. But for Geremu, he's a good few meters away from Kipchoge, and Kipchoge's played that card. Quick look across, and then while he's got that gap, he's just going to pop the accelerator down a little bit more and test Geremu one more time and see if he can break him.
This is great, isn't it? These 2 men are running quicker than most men have ever been able to run. You're most of the greats of marathon running, and now we're down to the greatest, the one man, the boss, as they call him. Finally, after so many miles of just churning away, he's picked up the pace, he's moved away, and he's heading towards another victory, because I can rest assured, or you and I and all of us can rest assured, that he knows what he's doing. This is not some novice who's making some incredible bid to win, getting overexcited too early, because he's got 1.25 miles of running left. And this is the man who knows how to finish this better than anyone else. There's the times. Kitata dropped off very quickly. I wonder if Mo Farah can reel him in. He's quite a way back. But there's going to be 4 or 5 very tired men, including Mo Farah in this home straight, and there might be one who's running strongly, and that will be Eliud Kipchoge.
And I'll bet he'll be a bit tired as well, and Callum Hawkins as well, looking tired. For the first time he's slipping back, and it's Rashik who's moved ahead of him, but maybe he can work with Rashik. He will fight, and he will keep fighting. It might be smarter at this point to maybe just sit in behind and concentrate on saving a little bit for that final mile or so. But Callum's removed it, knocked his glasses back, and is concentrating and working hard. But one man who will never, ever get it wrong, as you said, in that closing mile is Eliud Kipchoge, and in fact he'll probably go faster now, because that's that weight been lifted from his shoulders of trying to shake off his pursuers, the people who are still with him. He's managed to shake them, and now he can run freely into the finish, and we might see him even go a little bit quicker again.
Well, his time through the 40-kilometre mark was predicting inside 2 hours and 3, 2 hours 2:44, which would be quicker than he's run here in London. And of course, when he ran the 2 hours 3, he went on and broke the world record after that, running under 2:2 in Berlin. This is going to be a performance which, for me, we were asking the question this week: can he keep getting better? Has he run his best marathon? Has he reached that peak that we all inevitably reach and then gradually start to fall off the other side? Well, I think the answer here is emphatically no, because London is not the fastest course. It's not as quick as Berlin, and it's been a good day today condition-wise when they've been able to avoid the wind. But he's had a tough race to win here. He hasn't just been able to do his own thing. But look at this, as ever, forging ahead and heading for something which I think will be reasonably quick, and I think that is a smile now.
Well, I think he's heading for the second fastest of all time, and there's only him who has run faster, and I think he will just keep working on that, keep pushing harder. And I think you ask the questions of him, and yes, London might not be the fastest course, but it has the greatest support, and he's had the greatest race as well to really bring it out of him. And sometimes a lot of fast people, a lot of competition around you can make the race slower, but I think today it's transpired to just make it a quicker, faster race, smartly done as well, more evenly paced than he has run apart from that world record race in Berlin. And 2:02:57 is the second fastest of all time so far, and that's Kimetto, and I think he's going to be comfortably inside that. We may even see Geremu sneak inside that.
Yeah, Geremu will try and hold it together. I said at the beginning, if you take his top 10 times, I mean, he's run this is his 12th marathon. Rio was slow because of the weather. He won anyway. So his other races, his average is 2 hours 4 flat. 2 hours 4 minutes 00, and there's hardly any men who've run under 2:4. As you said, Paula, only he has run. Kimetto has run just under 2 hours and 3. He has, of course, run that world record, and this is going to be somewhere in between those two. Geremu looking behind, looks a little tired. He's got a chance of still breaking 2 hours 3, although he's looking more and more tired. Mo is slipping in terms of his time as well. Mo is now heading for close to 2 hours and 5, and we'll keep an eye on Callum Hawkins as well. But for now, let's enjoy the greatest ever, Eliud Kipchoge. He might not be a household name around the world. Everyone will know Mo Farah and the Usain Bolts, but for those of us in the world of running, particularly in marathon running, he is the greatest ever, by a long way. The quickest, the man who knows how to win. On every occasion he puts his foot on the line. Has only lost one of those marathons. This will be his 10th in a row where he has won, including, of course, 3 previous occasions winning here in London. Everybody loves him here, and if they didn't, of course they wanted Mo Farah to win. But if Mo Farah couldn't win, I'm sure everybody wanted Eliud Kipchoge to be the champion again, and that's what's happening. He's into the last few hundred meters. There's the clock. It's just going past his world record time of 2 hours, 1 minute and 39 seconds. That's how close he was to that on this occasion, because he can now come round the last bend in a second and he'll see the finish line ahead of him. Look at the crowds here in London. The spectacular sight as he heads up the mile with Buckingham Palace in the background. We've got a queen in London, but here's the king of all time, the king of all thrones, Eliud Kipchoge. He will be the champion for the 4th time. Nobody has done that before. He's run quicker than anyone else before, including himself here in London. Kipchoge is the champion again. The 2nd fastest time ever run by him or by any human being. Eliud Kipchoge, absolutely supreme, and a wonderful performance from this man. Geremu will join him as the 2nd fastest marathon runner ever, going ahead of Dennis Kimetto, the previous world record holder before Eliud Kipchoge. A cracking run from the Ethiopian, and his teammate, Wazahan, who's going to come in. Mule Wazahan will take third place, the 25-year-old. Superb run from him as well, a personal best, taking over a minute from his previous best, 2 hours 3 and 15. There's the top three. More stories, of course, but it'll be Kipchoge who gets the headline. We're waiting for Mo Farah. We're waiting for Callum Hawkins. But Eliud Kipchoge, in some ways for me, that's at least as good. A world record is a world record in Berlin, but to run this quick in London in this race today with the competitors he had against him, that was phenomenal.
That was completely supreme, to run the second fastest of all time, 2:02 like that, just waving at the crowd. I mean, he could have done another 10 seconds quicker if he'd just put his head down and gone for it then, but he wasn't. He was enjoying it. He was showing that for him today, the victory was what he wanted, and he got the victory, but he could have gone a lot quicker as well, and he is still ascending.
Well, we love our stats, don't you? There he is. He's the winner, the 4th time champion of London Marathon. That's a new record, of course, for men. He is already the world record holder. That's the 2nd fastest time ever. But if you want to have the world record for the best ever 2nd place and the best ever 3rd place, that happened today. Those 2 times, the best ever, of course, for 2nd, the best ever 3rd place. And look at Callum Hawkins here. We'll see Mo Farah coming into the home straight in just a second. He's coming into the mile looking very tired. But what a scrap on here. I think this is for 7th and 8th. But we'll just check on the athletes in between. Mo Farah, who's very tired. I think Mo's going to be outside 2:05 now, obviously, and he's going to be outside his personal best. He's looking extremely fatigued. So Katato finished 2nd last year. He's 4th. And Mo Farah is being cheered home, but it's been a tough day at the office. And this maybe, for Mo Farah, will just give him an indication of what the marathon is really about, because he said he came here in great shape. He said, I was well prepared, I'm here to run fast, but you just don't know. On the day, you just don't know. I think he did a smart thing when he let them go. He tried to stick to his own pace. He knew he couldn't hold that, and he hasn't really been able to deliver the performance I think he would have liked on a day when others have run so fast. So he has to settle for 5th place, and outside the time he set last year. So a solid performance from Mo. Another step up in the learning curve about the marathon distance.
Yeah, and I think it's all about learning, isn't it? It's all about respecting the marathon, not being afraid of it, but really respecting it. And I think Mo respected it, and he ran a really smart race in the race today. I would argue there's been some things in the build-up to the race which have not been the smartest way to make sure that you come here with full energy and full concentration on the race, but he will learn from that, and he will grow from the training that he's put in as well, which has been some of the best training that he's ever done, and he will build on that, and he'll probably be looking behind him to see how Callum Hawkins is doing behind him and how his training partner Bashir Abdi is doing as well.
Well, there's Callum Hawkins. I think this is for 7th and 8th, but I will check. Here we have, actually, this is 6th, 7th and 8th there, so that's for 9th and 10th. So Callum Hawkins has got to keep going to finish in the top 10, and he hasn't got far to go. Tola will come through in 6th place, and that's a solid performance from him. These times now are slipping for these athletes, including Callum Hawkins, but Callum is still heading for a big personal best. He's very tired, but he will get it. There's Abdi, Mo's training partner, not too far behind Mo. That's 7th place. This is 8th. And we think that Rashik will be ahead of him in 9th. There's Gebre Selassie, not the Gebre Selassie. I'm not sure if Hailey's watching today, might be. So we're watching down the home straight. So we've now got 8 athletes in, and here around the corner we can see that Rashik is going to finish ahead of him, but Callum Hawkins looks very tired, but he's behind this man. That's Rashik. There's Callum behind him. The two of them have had a great battle. Now look at the clock. Callum's previous best was 2 hours, 10 minutes and 17 seconds, set in 2017, and this is a performance which will move him right up the British all-time list. He got tired in the last 3 or 4 miles. For a while he looked as though he might be right on the 2:07 clocking, but nonetheless this is a great run from Callum Hawkins, and he'll be so proud of himself. Tired, weary, but that's a top 10 performance. Well done, Callum Hawkins. 2 minutes off his personal best. Tired, fatigued, but he's all right. He's fine. Brilliant running from Callum Hawkins. Well, that's a massive step up for him, Paula.
It is. It's a huge step up performance-wise, but it's a big step back psychologically for Callum to put himself back in there, fighting for a top 10 place in a World Marathon Major, beating Daniel Wandjuri, previous champion here, beating a lot of quality people behind him. He's really rebuilt himself, and he can now concentrate on getting himself back onto the path that he already had himself on before what happened on the Gold Coast and in the Commonwealth Games, and he can reassure himself that he still has it there. He can still really push his body hard when he wants to in the marathon.
Well, Callum, like Charlotte Purdue, becomes Britain's 3rd fastest marathon runner. Move ahead of Charlie Spedding. We said he was in the Steve Jones territory for quite a while, and Steve might have been a little concerned, as we see Wilson Kipsang, the former champion, coming across the line, very tired. I said at the beginning, Wilson not in the sort of shape that we've seen him in here in London in previous years, but outside the top 10 for him. We think that Dewi Griffiths will be in a couple of minutes. He had slowed down, but he's still got a chance of being inside the qualifying time. 2:13. Remember, Tish Jones crossed the line right on the mark. 2:31 flat in the women's race. Dewi Griffiths is a couple of minutes away. Well, this is one of the greatest days in the elite race that I think we've all seen. We saw Kosgei with the fastest ever second half of a marathon to take on the two great champions, Chariot and Keitany, and then the greatest, Eliud Kipchoge, destroying the field with a performance that only he has bettered in a marathon anywhere, but his best ever London Marathon, saving his best for his 4th London Marathon. Robinson of Australia is down there on the mile. You're looking at pictures overhead. There he is, just coming in. Dewi Griffiths was with him for a long time. Now, as I said, we need to keep an eye on the clock, because Griffiths was heading for something around 2:11, 2:12 at the 40k mark, so that's just 2 and a bit k from the finish. And the time to make sure that you can, well, it's not to make sure, because you had to be in the top 2 British athletes, but let's just assume that Mo might not run the marathon in Doha. That's up to him to decide. So for Dewi Griffiths, getting the qualifying time here would be really important, and it's 2:13 exactly. So he's got 2 minutes, just less. And he's just coming around the corner now in the yellow. Dewi Griffiths, this is good for him. We'll just see him in a second. 100 meters left to go. There he is. And he's tired. He gave it a real go for a long time. He tried to go with Callum in the early stages. Then he settled into his own race. For a long time looked as though a sub 2:10 was in the offing. And that would have been his personal best, is 2:9:49. The next target is make sure you run the qualifying time. And that's what he's done with ease here. So he's kept himself together pretty well over the last 2 or 3 miles. So Dewi Griffiths comes in what we think is 16th position, 2 hours 11:48. Well, it's good that, 3 British athletes at least. There might yet be 1 or 2. I don't think anyone else is going to be so close, but 3 British men inside the qualifying time. Of course, Mo Farah, Callum Hawkins and Dewi Griffiths. An Englishman, a Scotsman and a Welshman. So that's pretty much it with the elite races. We'll tidy up all of the results and the records for you as they continue to cross the finish line. But of course, for the 42,000 others out there, a lot of miles still to be run. There's quite a few of them are only up to about mile 4, 5 or 6, but for most of them are coming across Tower Bridge here. Then a lot of the hard work already done, but perhaps the toughest miles ahead. Conditions are benign, conditions are good. Well, back at Cutty Sark, this is one of the sites that athletes, I say like to see. It's so early in the race. I think it's just a nice place to get lots of cheering. Anyway, Adele, Andrew Cotter, you've been sitting watching the elites going round. Now we're going to concentrate, I think, a little bit on what else is happening out there.
The Cutty Sark is something that I looked forward to so much, and people gave me the advice that for a lot of people this is the real start line. So you start at the start of the marathon, obviously, and then you run to Cutty Sark, and this is where you are hopefully into your running and you're feeling relaxed and you've got your pace sorted, and you try not to go too fast at this bit, but you definitely get energized by the crowds.
There's a few costumes going through, obviously. Somebody dressed as a telephone, but for the very worthwhile cause of the Samaritans. But all sorts of costumes out there, all sorts of world records trying to be beaten. It would astonish you, or perhaps it wouldn't, the number of world records you can beat for fancy dress. There is the fastest marathon dressed as a shoe, fastest marathon dressed in a classic brownie uniform, as opposed to modern brownie uniform, I don't know. Fastest marathon dressed as a stationary item, fastest marathon dressed as a golfer, a zombie, a crustacean, a mythical creature. Good to know that all these people are out there and all doing it for the very worthwhile causes, of course, but there are many